All right, you ready to go?
All right, good morning, everyone. I'm Senator Jim Dill. I'm the chair of the ACF committee. And this morning we've got, first we have 5 confirmation hearings and then followed at 12:30 by 4 public hearings. So without any further delay, we'll go ahead and get started with introductions of the committee. I'll start with Senator Black.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everybody. I am Russ Black from Wilton, representing Senate District 17, which is all of Franklin County and 4 towns in Kennebec, Belgrade, Mount Vernon, Vienna, and Fayette.
Representative Schofield.
They see me?
Good morning, Senator Dill and everyone. My name is Tom Schofield, and I represent House District 112. I live in the town of Weld, and I represent 17 towns and townships in Franklin and Somerset counties, the High Peaks region of Maine. 5 below zero here this morning. Probably warmer than it was up in Lincoln, but still cold enough. Thank you.
Representative Osher.
Good morning. I'm Lori Osher. I represent District 123. That's the majority of Orono, the home of the University of Maine.
Representative Landry.
Good morning, Senator Dill. I'm Scott Landry. I represent District 113 in beautiful Franklin County, the towns of Farmington and New Sharon.
Representative McCray.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Representative David McCray. I live in Fort Fairfield, up in the center of my District 148, up in the county. Good day. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, Representative Gifford. You're next.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Representative Gifford. I represent Lincoln and Howland and Enfield and West Enfield and good people of District 142. And good morning, everybody. It's good to be back.
Representative Underwood.
Good morning. I'm Representative Joseph Underwood from the county in the great city of Presque Isle. Good morning.
Representative O'Neill, House Chair.
Good morning. My name is Maggie O'Neill. I represent House District 15, which is in Saukar.
Senator Maxman.
Hi, my name is Coy Maxman. I represent Senate District 13, which is Lincoln County and the towns of Washington and Windsor.
And as I mentioned, I'm Jim Dill. I represent Senate District number 5, Northern Penobscot County. As I say, we have 5 confirmation hearings today, and we'll take them in order as they had been listed on our calendar. So that will be Richard Cook, Timothy Drake, Harry Center, Donald Marian, and Patricia Varnum. So with that, I do have a script that we have to read. Our clerk is Cheryl McGowan, and I see that our analyst is here with us this morning too, and that is Karen Netto. And so with that, we'll go right into the script, and we'll start with Richard Cook. This is a public hearing of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry for the purpose of considering the nomination by the Governor, Dr. Richard A. Cook Herman, for reappointment to the Maine Milk Commission. Under the law and joint rules of the legislature, this committee is required to hold this public hearing and to recommend confirmation or denial of the nominee by a majority vote of the committee members present and voting. As chairs of the committee, we will then send written notice of the committee's recommendation to the President of the Senate. The committee will hear testimony from and have an opportunity to question the governor or her representative, the nominee, and any other persons present who wish to speak for or against the nomination. This meeting is currently being live streamed on committee's YouTube channel. This means that anyone who is participating in the meeting via Zoom can be seen and also heard if their microphone is unmuted. So please make sure that all your microphones are muted until you're called upon, please. People testifying cannot be seen and heard until they are called upon to speak. This meeting will be recorded and available to view on the committee's YouTube channel soon after the meeting has concluded. Motion to confirm. Pursuant to Title III, Section 157 of the Maine statutes, which requires it to be an affirmative motion to recommend confirmation of the nominee, the chair recognizes Representative O'Neill for the purpose of making this motion.
I make that motion, Mr. Chair.
It has been moved that the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry recommend confirmation of Dr. Richard A. Cook of Herman for reappointment to the Maine Milk Commission. A copy of the statutory of the requirements is available, And at this point in time, I will turn to Tom Abello for the purpose of making a statement concerning the nomination.
Thank you. Good morning, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Tom Abello. I'm the Legislative Director for Governor Mills, and I'm here today to speak on behalf of the Governor in support of the renomination of Dr. Richard Cook of Herman for reappointment to the Maine Milk Commission. As you know, the Maine Milk Commission is a 5-member consumer board that was established to oversee the milk industry in Maine and to support the viability of farms and the milk industry. A large portion of this responsibility is setting minimum milk prices. Dr. Cook is being renominated to seat 3. He has served for nearly 15 years as an active and thoughtful board member of the Maine Milk Commission. Dr. Cook holds a BS in biochemistry and an MS in biochemistry, and his PhD is in nutrition, all from the University of Maine. He has been employed by the University of Maine for the last 45 years and has been a trailblazer in the area of nutrition and is a member of the American Diabetic Association, Maine Diabetic Association, and is a certified nutrition specialist. As you have likely witnessed from Dr. Cook's materials, his commitment to nutrition in all aspects of food and science has been second to none. His continued service on the Maine Milk Commission will continue to provide firsthand insight into all aspects of science-based nutrition and how that may or may not impact the milk industry. Thank you, Dr. Cook, for your many years of service on this important commission. It is for these reasons that I would ask you to support the governor's nomination of the reappointment of Dr. Richard Cook of Herman to the Maine Milk Commission. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Abello? All right, seeing none, I will now go to the nominee, Dr. Richard A. Cook, for making a statement concerning his nomination.
Okay, thank you, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the Joint Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. Glad to meet with you today. I need to correct one thing. It's Maine Dietetic Association, not diabetic. Okay. That's a different one, but that's an important one too. I'm a lifetime Maine resident. I grew up in Cape Elizabeth. I lived as an adult in Orono, Bangor, and now in Herman. As he mentioned, I have degrees in biochemistry and human nutrition. I'm retired, but I was a nutrition professor at University of Maine in Orono, as he mentioned, for 45 years. I also was director of the School of Human Development, and during that time, I carried out numerous research projects on the surveillance of the nutritional status of the Maine population at all ages. We looked at people where our goal in those years were to look at, try to find out what was going on with just about everybody in the state of Maine for their nutritional problems. And we even did a statewide study on that. As he mentioned, I've worked with the Maine Milk Commission since 2008. Gained extensive experience with that. It's an interesting committee, and it's requires a lot of work and experience because it's very complicated. I really have enjoyed my work and appreciative for being for all of you allowing me the opportunity to work with the commission, and I'd like to continue on if it's okay with the committee.
Great, thank you. Are there any questions for Dr. Cook? All right, thank you. Seeing none, I will now take comments from persons attending the hearing who wish to speak for or against this nomination. We've already received written comments on many of the nominees, And if there's anyone here who wishes to speak in person, and I don't think there is, Cheryl, on this one, is there?
There is not.
Okay. Then we will move right on to my concluding statement. All public comments having been taken, the committee will now proceed as follows. Review any additional written comments to the nomination that have been received by the committee. Vote on the nomination and notify the President of the Senate pursuant to Title III MRSA, Section 157, and the joint rules. The vote must be taken within 35 days from the date of the governor's written notice. The hearing by the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry for Dr. Richard A. Cook of Herman for reappointment to the Maine Milk Commission is closed. Taking the vote. In accordance with the law, the committee may not take the vote on the nomination any sooner than 15 minutes after the close of the public hearing unless all committee members who are present agree. At this time, is there anyone opposed to taking the vote right now? All right, seeing none. The pending question before the committee is that the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry recommend to the Senate of the 130th Maine Legislature that the nomination of Dr. Richard A. Cook of Herman for reappointment to the Maine Milk Commission be confirmed. In accordance with 3 MSRA Section 6, Chapter 6, Section 157, with the joint rules of the 130th Legislature, the vote will be taken by the yeas and nays. Yay will be yes, an affirmative vote, and nay will be a negative or no vote. Is everyone ready for the question? Seeing no opposition, please call the roll, Cheryl.
Yes, nomination of Richard Cook to the Maine Milk Commission. Senator James Dill.
Yes.
Senator James Dill, yes. Senator Russell Black. Senator Russell Black, absent. Senator Chloe Maxman.
Yes.
Senator Chloe Maxman, yes. Representative Margaret O'Neill.
Yes.
Representative Margaret O'Neill, yes. Representative Randall Hall.
Yes.
Representative Randall Hall, yes. Representative Susan Bernard, absent. Representative Lori Osher.
Yes.
Representative Lori Osher, yes. Representative Thomas Schofield.
Yes.
Representative Thomas Schofield, yes. Representative Joseph Underwood.
Yes.
Representative Joseph Underwood, yes. Representative Scott Landry.
Yes.
Representative Scott Landry, yes. Representative David McCray.
Yes.
Representative David McCray, yes. Representative Bill Pluker, absent. Representative Jeffrey Gifford.
Yes.
Representative Jeffrey Gifford, yes. 10 yes, 3 absent. It's unanimous.
Okay, 10 members of the committee having voted in the affirmative and none in the negative, and 3 being absent is the vote of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry that the nomination of Dr. Richard A. Cook of Herman for reappointment to the Maine Milk Commission be confirmed. Congratulations, sir.
Unmute here. Thank you.
Well, congratulations on your reappointment. All right, with that, we'll move on to our next confirmation, and that is of Timothy Drake of China. Again, I have a script to read, but you'll find that it gets a little shorter each time as I go through it, since we've all heard it once and we're all sitting here. So this is a public hearing of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry for the purpose of considering the nomination by the governor of Mr. Timothy D. Drake of China for appointment to the Maine Milk Commission. With that, we will move right on to the motion to confirm. So if I can call on Representative O'Neill for that motion.
Make the motion.
It has been moved by Representative O'Neill that the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry recommend confirmation of Mr. Timothy Drake of China for appointment to the Maine Milk Commission. With that, I will now call on Thomas Abello to make a statement on behalf of the governor.
Thank you, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the committee. My name is Tom Abello. I'm the legislative director for Governor Mills, and I'm here to testify and present Tim Drake for appointment to the Maine Milk Commission. As you know, the Maine Milk Commission is a 5-member consumer board that was established to oversee the industry in Maine and to support the viability of farms and the milk industry. A large portion of the responsibility is setting minimum milk prices, and members of the Milk Commission are required by statute to not have any current connection to the milk industry. Tim Drake of China is likely no stranger to this legislative committee, as he ran the Milk Commission for many years prior to his retirement last year. He is being nominated to seat 4. He brings a wealth of knowledge related to procedure and policy regarding the industry, but currently has no connection to the industry. Undoubtedly, as you've seen from Mr. Drake's background materials, he is more than qualified to serve on the commission, and we thank Mr. Drake for his many years of service to the industry. For these reasons, I would ask you to support the governor's nomination, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Bello? All right, seeing none, I will now turn to Mr. Drake.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, members of the Joint Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. I'm Tim Drake, China, Maine, and I'm here today to discuss my nomination to the Maine Milk Commission. As some of you have heard, and may have heard recently, that I retired as the Executive Director of the Maine Milk Commission after 21 years of service within the then Maine Department of Agriculture and later the Maine Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry, the last 13 years of which has been as the Executive Director. I believe this helps me bring a unique perspective and experience to the Commission. New members of the Commission historically have taken a few years to develop the understanding and background knowledge that I already have. I will be able to contribute immediately and will have no trouble understanding the complex and challenging issues facing the dairy industry in Maine and making fair and equitable decisions as a member of the commission. I would be happy to answer any questions you would have at this time. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Yeah, Mr. Drake, I'm not sure about your background in the milk industry. Could you explain the Maine Milk Tier Program in depth? So
do you really want to go down that road, Senator Bill?
I'll wait. I'll wait. I guess there are no questions for you, Tim. Seeing none, I will move on to take comments. Anyone attending the hearing to speak for or against the nomination? I don't think I have anybody on my list, Cheryl.
No.
Okay, then we will move on to concluding statement. All public comments having been taken, the committee will proceed as follows. We will vote on the nomination. And so without further ado, the hearing by the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry for Mr. Timothy Drake of China for appointment to the Maine Milk Commission is closed. And again, I would ask if there are anybody that does not wish to proceed with the vote immediately, would you please raise your hand? All right, seeing none. The pending question before the committee is that the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry recommend to the Senate of the 130th Maine Legislature the nomination of Mr. Timothy D. Drake of China for appointment to the Maine Milk Commission be confirmed. A vote of yay is yes, and a vote of nay is no. Is the committee ready for the question? Please call the roll, Cheryl.
Nominee Timothy Drake for Maine Milk Commission, Senator James Dill.
Yes.
Senator James Dill, yes. Senator Russell Black.
Yes.
Senator Russell Black, yes. Senator Chloe Maxman.
Yes.
Senator Chloe Maxman, yes. Representative Margaret O'Neill.
Yes.
Representative Margaret O'Neill, yes. Representative Randall Hall.
Yes.
Representative Randall Hall, yes. Representative Susan Bernard, absent. Representative Lori Osher.
Yes.
Representative Lori Osher, yes. Representative Thomas Schofield.
Yes.
Representative Thomas Schofield, yes. Representative Joseph Underwood.
Big moo. Yes.
Representative Joseph Underwood, moo, yes. Representative Scott Landry.
Yes.
Representative Scott Landry, yes. Representative David McCray.
Yes.
Representative David McCray, yes. Representative Bill Pluker, absent. Representative Jeffrey Gifford.
Yes.
Representative Jeffrey Gifford, yes. That is 11 in the affirmative and 2 absent.
With 11 members of the committee having voted in the affirmative and none in the negative and 2 absent, it is the vote of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry that the nomination of Mr. Timothy Drake of China for appointment to the Maine Milk Commission be confirmed. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, we will change gears slightly. And the next person that we have is Harry B. Center of, let's see, Freeport for appointment to the State Harness Racing Commission. I see that he's right here next to me, at least on my screen. And I will read the script. You've all heard it once. So this is a public hearing of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry for the purpose of considering the nomination by the governor of Mr. Harry B. Center II of Freeport for appointment to the State Harness Racing Committee. And I will ask my co-chair to make a motion.
I move that we go ahead with the nomination.
It has been moved by Representative O'Neill that the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry recommend confirmation of Mr. Harry B. Center II of Freeport for appointment to State Harness Racing Commission. And I will now call on Mr. Abello again.
Thank you, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Tom Abello. I am here today on behalf of the governor to speak in support of the nomination of Harry B. Center of Freeport for appointment to the Maine State Harness Racing Commission. As you know, the commission is responsible for contracting for the services of qualified persons to serve as presiding and associate track judges, to provide adequate policing and enforcement, for adopting rules for holding, conducting, and operating all harness races, or to meet for public exhibition held in Maine, and for the operation of racetracks on which any such race or meet is held. Mr. Center is being nominated to seat number 3, which requires the nominee to be a public representative who has no industry affiliation. He holds a BS in political science from Towson State University and his JD from the University of Maine Law School. He has been a practicing attorney since 1987 and is currently employed at Woodman, Edmonds, Baylink, and Austin, PA in Biddeford, Maine. Mr. Center is admitted to practice before the U.S. District of Maine Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, and the First Circuit Court of Appeals. His practice areas include civil litigation, criminal defense law, personal injury, and insurance defense. He is a member of the Maine State Bar, the American Bar, the Maine Trial Lawyers, and the American Association for Justice. It is for these reasons that it is the opinion of the governor that as a public member, Mr. Center would bring an analytical approach and legal mindset to board business. And it's for these reasons that I would ask you to support the governor's nomination of Harry B. Center, Esquire of Freeport, to the Harness Racing Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Abello? All right, seeing none. Thank you. Next, I will call on Mr. Center for his statement.
Good morning, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Harry Center. I live in Freeport, and I'm honored to be here before you as Governor Mills' nominee for the public member position on the Maine State Harness Racing Commission. Unlike the prior 2 nominees, I don't have any familiarity with anyone on the committee. This is my first opportunity to serve at the state level, and I am honored and excited about this opportunity. I'm a lifelong Mainer, born and brought up in Biddeford, graduated from Biddeford High School, attended college in Maryland at Towson University, my first year of law school in Connecticut, and I transferred to the University of Maine, graduating from there in 1987. With the exception of those 5 years, I've lived here in Maine all my life. As the joke goes so far. I was sworn in September of 1987 at a joint federal and state ceremony at Merrill Auditorium. The entire state, instead of having ceremonies at individual counties, held a single ceremony in honor of the 200th anniversary of the Constitution. And that is something I was very proud of and launched me off in a legal career that's gone for about 35 years. I'm a fan of harness racing. My grandfather and father were fans. We would head out to the racetrack on summer evenings after the family would go out to dinner. I enjoyed it as a young child and have followed the sport. Attorney Barbara Dresser, who I worked with, has served on the commission, and she's aware of my enthusiasm for the sport, and she was kind enough to recommend me to the governor. Other than being a fan and patron of the sport, I have absolutely no ties to the industry. I've never represented a commercial racetrack or represented anyone involving harness racing or any type of issues in that regard. My 35 years as a trial attorney, I think, will bring experience to the board, specifically with administrative law. I represented the city of Biddeford for 12 years, and that involved me advising all the boards and commissions, as well as appearing before most state agencies, Property Tax Review, Labor Relations Board, Bureau of Liquor Enforcement. I understand we'll have an assistant attorney general giving us legal advice. This position isn't the legal position for the commission. I'll serve as an impartial commissioner on any adjudicatory matters and do my best to make proper decisions for the industry and for the sport. I'm a strong believer in the industry. I think it's important to the state's economy. It's important to those who earn their livings from it. And I feel it's a part of our history that I'm honored to become involved with and do my best to use my education and skills to support it. So I don't have anything further. I submitted written testimony, but as a trial lawyer, I just can't read a script. I'm used to just talking. So if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them at this point. And I thank you for your consideration of my nomination.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Center? All right, seeing none. Statements from the floor. The chair will now take comments from persons attending this hearing who wish to speak for or against this nomination, and I think we have at least one. So those who wish to speak in person have already registered, so please state your name and place of residence prior to your testimony. And only comments concerning the suitability of this particular nominee for this particular position will be considered in order. And after you are done speaking and there are no more questions, you will be returned back to the attendee status. So I recognize Representative Steve Moriarty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry Committee. I am your colleague, Representative Steve Moriarty. I represent my hometown of Cumberland and part of the town of Gray. I understand that this is Mr. Center's first nomination to become the public member of the Maine State Harness Racing Commission, and I was asked to say a few words on his behalf. Now, ironically, although I'm a retired attorney, Mr. Center and I never had any contact in the legal business along the way. Instead, we've known each other for somewhere between, I'd say, 15 and 20 years through mutual membership in the Maine Track Club and an interest in road racing. And we haven't, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, seen each other in a couple of years because there are no races going on. But when I was still in active practice, my partners, and I was in a litigation firm, always spoke very highly of Harry and his capability, his integrity, his expertise, his professionalism. And I never heard anything other than the highest caliber comments about his work as an attorney with my partners. So what do you look for as a public member of this commission? And I'm making some personal assumptions. I think I'm probably on target. I think you begin with a certain amount of contact with the state of Maine and knowledge of the state itself. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to be born here to serve, although that is the case with Mr. Center, as you have heard. He was born in Biddeford, attended public schools in Biddeford, and came back to finish his law degree at UMaine School of Law several years after I finished. In addition, you might inquire about someone's professional experience. What have they done with their adult life while having lived in Maine? Well, we know that Mr. Center has been a practicing attorney for 35 years. He is a trial attorney with experience in criminal defense, civil litigation, and also in municipal law, which is, I think, highly interesting and pertinent to serving on the commission. He's represented the city of Biddeford and its various committees, and also has appeared before multiple state agencies in the course of his professional career. Finally, it's probably appropriate to ask whether a nominee has any knowledge or particular interest in the area in which he will be serving. And while Mr. Center is not affiliated with the harness racing industry, we know that he has been a fan for many, many years and is highly interested in the sport. I was personally pleased to see in his written testimony that early on, during the younger years, he and his family would come to the Cumberland Fair, which is right in my backyard. So that makes me happy, and I'm very, very pleased to be here to speak on his behalf and to recommend his nomination for your very serious consideration.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Representative Moriarty? All right, seeing none. Thank you for your testimony this morning.
Thank you.
Cheryl, I did have one more on my list, but I don't see that person here. Is that it? Okay. All right, all public comments having been taken, the committee now will proceed as follows. We will end the hearing on the Joint Standing Committee for Mr. Harry B. Center II of Freeport for appointment to the State Harness Racing Commission. We now take the vote. Is there anyone opposed to taking it immediately? Seeing none. The pending question before the committee is that the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry recommend to the Senate of the 130th Maine Legislature that the nomination of Mr. Harry B. Center II of Freeport for appointment to the State Harness Racing Commission be confirmed. Vote a yes or yay is yes, and vote a nay is no. Cheryl, please call the roll.
Nomination. Oh, hello. Got some people on that need to mute if they can. Nomination of Harry Center for Harness Racing Commission. Senator James Dill.
Yes.
Senator James Dill, yes. Senator Russell Black.
Yes.
Senator Russell Black, yes. Senator Chloe Maxman.
Yes.
Senator Chloe Maxman, yes. Representative Margaret O'Neill.
Yes.
Representative Margaret O'Neill, yes. Representative Randall Hall. Representative Randall Hall.
Yes. Yes.
I need to see you, sir.
I'm here. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm here.
Okay, we'll have to come back to you.
Yeah.
See
Okay.
if we can get your
Yeah, I'm having
smiling
internet
face.
issues. Yeah, I'm getting internet issues this morning.
Okay.
Representative Susan Bernard, absent. Representative Lori Osher.
Yes.
Representative Lori Osher, yes. Representative Thomas Schofield.
Yes.
Representative Thomas Schofield, yes. Representative Joseph Underwood.
Yay.
Representative Joseph Underwood, yes. Representative Scott Landry.
Yes.
Representative Scott Landry, yes. Representative David McCray.
Yes.
Representative David McCray, yes. Representative Bill Pluker, absent. Representative Jeffrey Gifford.
Yes.
Representative Jeffrey Gifford, yes. Representative Randall Hall.
Yes.
Representative Randall Hall, yes. 11 yes, 2 absent.
11 members of the committee haven't voted in the affirmative and none in the negative, and 2 absent. Was 11, yes, 11 and 2, was it? Yes.
Yes.
With 2 absent, it is the vote of the committee, Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry, the nomination of Mr. Harry B. Center II of Freeport for appointment to the State Harness Racing Commission be confirmed. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
All right, the next person on our list is Don Marian. This is a public hearing of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry for the purpose of considering the nomination by the Governor of the Honorable Donald G. Marian of Hollis for appointment to the State Harness Racing Committee. And I will turn to my co-chair for that motion.
Mr. Chair, I make that motion.
It has been moved by Representative O'Neill that the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry recommend confirmation of the Honorable Donald G. Marion of Hollis for appointment to the State Harness Racing Commission. And with that, I will turn again to Mr. Bello.
Thank you, Senator Dill and Representative O'Neill and members of the committee. My name is Tom Bello. I am here on behalf of the governor to speak in support of the nomination of Don Marion of Hollis for appointment to the Maine State Harness Racing Commission. Don Marion is being nominated to fill seat 5, requiring that the nominee have knowledge of harness racing. Don is no stranger to public service and served on this very committee for much of his legislative career, spanning more than 12 years until his term ended in 2020. As a member of this committee, Don was responsible for many legislative initiatives related to the harness racing industry and thus has received several awards over the course of his career from various entities, including the Maine Harness Horseman's Distinguished Service Award and the President's Award for the United States Harness Riders. He hopes by becoming a member of this commission that he will be able to assist in protecting the integrity of the sport and be a guiding member into the future of harness racing. It is for these reasons that I would ask you to support the governor's nominee, Don Marion, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Bello? Seeing none. I thank you for your testimony, and I will turn to the Honorable Donald G. Marion for his statement.
Good morning, everyone. Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and distinguished members of the committee. This is Don Marion, and I live in Hollis. I've lived here for about 35 years.
Don Bello's talking.
So I want to thank Mr. O'Bello for presenting my nomination to the committee, and I really want to thank the governor for having the confidence in me and nominating me to serve on the Harness Racing Commission, harness racing being near and dear to my heart. I've been involved in the industry for almost 4 decades, 39 years, in fact. I've held multiple roles in the industry. I currently serve on the board of directors of Maine Harness Horsemen's Association, and I'm past president of the Maine Standardbred Breeders Association. For the past 20 years, I've been involved in every piece of legislation that came before the legislature that involved harness racing, whether it be good, bad, or indifferent. I was always there to support it. I served 8 years on the committee, on the Ag Committee. I sponsored several bills, co-sponsored others, but always supported or defended the industry wholeheartedly in the last 20 years. I served 12 years in the House of Representatives. I spent 8 years in the Ag Committee, 4 years on taxation, and 2 years on criminal justice. I'm currently on the board of directors of the United States Trotting Association, which oversees harness racing in the United States, keeps records and regulations. I am co-chair of the Finance Committee of the United States Trotting Association, which has a substantial budget every year. In fact, our annual meeting is coming up in a couple of weeks. I'm also chair of the New England district of the U.S. Trotting Association, which has about 700 members. And I've been chair of the District 9 now for about 20 years. I also serve on the American Horse Council in Washington, D.C. as a trustee and as a director. And the American Horse Council participates in legislations at the Capitol, which involves all breeds of horses, racing horses, pleasure horses, and working horses. So I have a lot of connection in Washington, knowing what's going on in the industry and whether or not it benefits what it is that we're trying to do in Maine. I appreciate being able to come before this committee and ask for your endorsement to be moved on to the Senate. The harness racing industry in Maine is looking toward a very bright future. And having the folks that the governor has selected to sit on this commission is going to be positive all around. I am very confident of that. And I'm happy to take any questions, and thank you.
Are there any questions for Mr. Marine? All right, seeing none, thank you. The chair will now take comments from persons attending the hearing who wish to speak for or against the nomination. Those who wish to speak in person have already registered. So when I call on you, please state your name, place of residence. Only comments concerning the suitability of the particular nominee for this particular position will be considered in order. And when you're done speaking and there are no more questions, you will be returned to the attendee status and we'll call on the next person. So with that, the first one on my list is Senator Bill Diamond.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry Committee. It's nice to be back to the committee. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm especially proud to talk about Don Marion and what his accomplishments and specifically for him being nominated for this important position. I've known the Marion family for over 50 years. For several different reasons and several different capacities. They are highly respected. Each of them have their own accomplishments. Don's accomplishments are, as you've just heard, certainly those that will really add to this position as member of the Harness Racing Commission. He's been an accomplished public servant. He served locally on the select board of his hometown. He served on the school board of his school district. And as you heard, he spent 12 years in the legislature. I think that experience will be especially helpful because of his extensive background to the position of member of the Harness Racing Commission. He and his wife, Linda, have raised racehorses. If you had never had a chance to go to his farm and see how they do it and the amount of love they put into all of that, it's quite unique. And I really wish, if you haven't had a chance to see that experience, I wish you could. He has a keen interest in knowledge in horse racing and in harness racing and in horses in particular. He loves horses. He understands the importance of harness racing to our economy and to those who depend on that industry. And maybe more than anything, he is really non-judgmental. He can work with everybody and anybody, which I think again plays right to what this new position would be and the asset it would bring to his membership on that racing commission. So Chairman Dill, I want to thank you for the opportunity to say a few words about the Honorable Don Marion, and I urge you to support him, and I look forward to seeing him maybe in the next few months at least, maybe around the State House in his new capacity. So thank you very much, and I'd take any questions if you have them.
Are there any questions for Senator Diamond? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Next is Representative Michelle Dunphy. Good morning.
Morning. It's nice to see everyone today. It's always a pleasure to come before this committee. I'm happy to be here. Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. I am Michelle Dunphy. I proudly represent House District 122, which is comprised of Old Town and the Indian Island voting district. And additionally, I have the honor of serving as the House Majority Leader. I'm before you today to wholeheartedly support the nomination by Governor Mills of Don Marion of Hollis to serve on the Maine Harness Racing Commission. Don Marion and I served on this committee together when I was in my first term. He was my seatmate. He was always kind, patient, and he was a problem solver. He and I quickly became friends, and he was a tremendous asset to me, as well as to everyone on the committee, because of his extensive knowledge around the issues before this committee and harness racing in particular. Harness racing is a venerated institution in Maine, and we've been racing horses since we figured out how to ride them and hitch them to something we wanted them to pull. And harness racing as it has developed and matured, is a sophisticated art more than just a sport. That sophistication is exactly why we need somebody like Don Moran to serve on this oversight commission. He knows the art and craft of harness racing. He knows what's right. He knows what's wrong, what's good for the horses and the people who raise them and keep them. And he appreciates all of this for the rest of us who want to enjoy the fun and the spectacle of a really good race. And Don Moran, he comes by all of this honestly. He's a practicing farmer and owner of Linden Farm, and he is a devoted husband, father, and grandfather. And along with spending his life as a farmer and a horseman, he also knows plenty about how to work in the arena of public policy, having served as a selectman in Hollis and as a member of the legislature at different times over the span of 2 decades, serving on this committee, as you know, and the Criminal Justice Committee. Don knows what to look for and where to find it, and this is an important position, not an honorary one. Given the value and importance of harness racing to Maine, I can think of no one better than this position for Don Moran, and I would compliment the governor for her strong choice. I appreciate the opportunity to testify before you today, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Representative Dunphy? Seeing none, again, thank you for your testimony. Next, I will call on Michael Cushing.
Yes, thank you, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and distinguished members of the Agricultural Committee. I am Mike Cushing of Farmington, Maine. I've lived in Maine my entire life, and I've been involved in the harness racing industry for my entire life. I'm currently the president of the Maine Harness Horsemen Association, and I would like to stand behind the governor's nomination of Don Moran for a seat on the commission. I've worked alongside Don in one capacity or another since I entered the business. I've submitted written testimony, which is available, and I don't want to repeat too much of what has been said, but I can tell you that he has been integral in achieving legislation that has put harness racing in a better position. He's done it with integrity. He's worked with all walks of life in the intent of moving harness racing forward. I can tell you on the position that I currently serve as president, he has been a great leaning post for me, words of wisdom, and I respect more than anything that he's not afraid to tell you when you're wrong and you're going the wrong direction. I think his knowledge, his passion, and his integrity and honesty will be a great addition to the Racing Commission. His expertise and familiarity of all aspects of it are unmatched, and I think it's a great nomination. And as a president of the Horsemen's Association and as an individual, I'd like to stand behind that nomination. And I thank you for your time. I would take any questions if there were any.
Are there any questions for Mr. Cushing? All right, seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take the vote now. And the first question, as it has been, is there anyone opposed to taking the vote immediately? Seeing none. The pending question before the committee is that the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry recommend to the state of the Senate of the 130th Maine Legislature that the nomination of the Honorable Donald G. Moran of Hollis for appointment to the State Harness Racing Commission be confirmed. A vote of yay is yes. A vote of nay is no. Please call the roll, Cheryl.
Yes, nomination of Donald Moran for the Harness Racing Commission of Maine. Senator James Dill.
Yes.
Senator James Dill, yes. Senator Russell Black.
Yes.
Senator Russell Black, yes. Senator Chloe Maxman.
Yes.
Senator Chloe Maxman, yes. Representative Margaret O'Neill.
Yes.
Representative Margaret O'Neill, yes. Representative Randall Hall.
Yes.
Representative Randall Hall, yes. Representative Susan Bernard, absent. Representative Lori Osher.
Yes.
Representative Lori Osher, yes. Representative Thomas Schofield.
An enthusiastic yes.
Representative Thomas Schofield, yes. Representative Joseph Underwood.
Yes.
Representative Joseph Underwood, yes. Representative Scott Landry.
Definitely yes.
Representative Scott Landry, yes. Representative David McCray.
Yes.
Representative David McCray, yes. Representative Bill Pluker, absent. Representative Jeffrey Gifford.
Yes.
Representative Jeffrey Gifford, yes. 11 yes, 2 absent.
11 members of the committee having voted in the affirmative and none in the negative and 2 absent. It is the vote of the Joint Standing Committee of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry that the nomination of the Honorable Donald G. Marion of Hollis for appointment to the State Harness Racing Commission be confirmed. Congratulations.
Thank you, members. I'll do my best.
And we will move on to the final confirmation hearing for this morning. And this is a public hearing of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry for the purpose of considering the nomination by the governor of Ms. Patricia A. Varnum of Green for appointment to the State Harness Racing Commission. And I will turn to my co-chair for that nomination.
I make that,
Yes.
I make that nomination.
Okay. Representative O'Neill has moved that the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry recommend confirmation of Ms. Patricia A. Varnum of Green for appointment to the State Harness Racing Commission. And again, I will turn to Mr. Lobello.
Thank you, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Tom Lobello, and I'm here on behalf of Governor Mills to speak in support of the nomination of Patricia A. Varnum of Green for appointment to the Maine State Harness Racing Commission. Patricia Varnum has been nominated to fill seat 2, requiring the nominee to have knowledge of harness racing. For nearly 45 years, Ms. Varnum has been involved in the harness racing industry. She would bring a wide breadth of experience to this board, which not only includes daily interactions with industry members, but also personal experience as an owner of a standard bred racehorse with deep understanding of owning and operating a successful business in the harness racing industry. Ms. Varnum has been a program director for the USTA Racing Organization as a clerk of course racing officials across New England and as far west as Illinois. Undoubtedly, she has the experience that is required to fill this seat. It is for these reasons that we believe Ms. Varnum would make an excellent member of the commission, and why I would ask you to support the governor's nomination. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Bello? All right, seeing none, thank you. The chair now recognizes Ms. Patricia A. Varnum.
Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Patricia Varnum of Green, and I'm here today to discuss my nomination to the Maine State Harness Racing Commission. I bring a lifetime of harness racing with me. My father was a horseman. My husband, Luke, is a horseman, as was his father. And I'm a horseman too. Harness racing brought us together. My father used to drive his father's horses. First time we met, I was probably 10 or 12, and I just kind of thought that was the guy, and it ended up being that way. We've raced horses together for 45 years in Maine and other states. We share the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat equally together. Throughout those 45 years, 1979 to 1992, I held racing office official positions. I've been licensed and worked as a program director, clerk of course, charter, patrol judge, assistant race secretary. All of these positions require providing the public with complete and accurate past performance information, certifying judges' books to be accurate, enforcing rules, and classifying horses to race in competition. In addition to being a licensed owner, I am also one of a handful of women in the state of Maine that hold a provisional license to drive in parimutuel races. And thank goodness I don't do that very often. After settling back in Maine in 1985, I continued my post-secondary education, obtaining a paralegal certificate in 1991. Currently, I'm employed by a medical billing company as a quality assurance analyst. I continue to share the duties of running our stable on a day-to-day basis. We have 4 racehorses, including a promising colt that is eligible to the main standardbred breeder stakes, a broodmare that's due to foal the 1st of April, and a quarter horse that I ride and show. My years of harness racing experience, from being a racing official to a hands-on owner, driver, trainer, and breeder, allow me to bring a unique perspective to the commission. I also bring employment experience that has required the handling of confidential information with tact, discretion, and good judgment. I am honest and unbiased in all of my dealings. This nomination is an honor, and I'm humbled by it. I am grateful and look forward to the opportunity to give back to the industry that I'm so proud of. I love the horses and harness racing. I will not take my duties on the commission lightly. Now more than ever, it is important that harness racing be protected and allowed to grow. I will do the best I can to serve both the horsemen and the public. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you. I will now take statements from the floor from anyone attending the hearing who wish to speak for or against the nomination. And I believe we still have Mr. Cushion here who wishes to speak. Please state your name and where you're from, sir.
Yes, my name is Mike. My name is Mike Cushing. I reside and live in Farmington, Maine. I spoke earlier, but I'm the president of the Maine Harness Horsemen's Association, and would like to thank Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and distinguished members of the committee for allowing this testimony, public testimony, on behalf of the nominee, Patricia Varnum. Like Don Marine, Patricia Varnum's been involved in Maine harness racing as long as I have been. I have known her my entire time in it, which is now 30 plus years. I can tell you that she is incredibly honest and thoughtful, and I think her passion spoke in her words just a moment ago, that you can see that that's the type of passion that you'd like to see serving on a commission such as this that has influence over the industry. What I really appreciate, other than her honesty and hard work and integrity, which is unparalleled, but I really, the horsemen think that her positions that she's held within the industry has been everything from groom and caretaker to working for the administrative end of the racing tracks, as judges, and as clerk, of course, working in the racing office. I think she can see our industry through several different lenses, which allows her the opportunity to, speaking from someone who's always been a horseman, I'm probably going to see it through the trainer or owner's lens, and maybe not as much through the lens that would a judge might, or someone that works within a racing office. I think that diverse jobs that she has held within the industry allows her an opportunity to see things from a direction that maybe other commissioners or other people would not be able to see. I think that's great, and I think it speaks well to the administration and her staff that brought these 3 nominees forward, because they're a diverse group or capability of, and I thank them for their effort, and I wholeheartedly support the nominee of Patricia Varnum. If there are any questions, I would take them, and there is written testimony that's been provided. Thank you for your time.
Are there any questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
All public comments having been taken, the hearing by the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry for Ms. Patricia A. Varnum of Green for appointment to the State Harness Racing Commission be closed. Anyone objecting to taking the vote immediately? Seeing none. A vote of yes will be in favor. A vote of no is negative or against. Please call the roll.
Yes, nomination of Patricia Varnum to the Harness Racing Commission. Senator James Dill.
Yes.
Senator James Dill, yes. Senator Russell Black.
Yes.
Senator Russell Black, yes. Senator Chloe Maxman.
Yes.
Senator Chloe Maxman, yes. Representative Margaret O'Neill.
Yes.
Representative Margaret O'Neill, yes. Representative Randall Hall.
Yes.
Representative Randall Hall, yes. Representative Susan Bernard, absent. Representative Lori Osher. You're on.
Yes.
Representative Lori Osher, yes. Representative Thomas Schofield.
Yes.
Representative Thomas Schofield, yes. Representative Joseph Underwood.
Yes.
Representative Joseph Underwood, yes. Representative Scott Landry.
Yes.
Representative Scott Landry, yes. Representative David McCray.
Yes.
Representative David McCray, yes. Representative Bill Pluker, absent. Representative Jeffrey Gifford.
Yes.
Representative Jeffrey Gifford, yes. That's 11 yes and 2 absent.
11 members of the committee having voted in the affirmative and none in the negative and 2 absent. It is the vote of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry for the nomination of Ms. Patricia A. Barnum of Green for appointment to the State Harness Racing Commission be confirmed. Congratulations. And that concludes our confirmation hearings for the day. I want to congratulate all the nominees for their successful venture through the committee. And with that, I think we may as well take a break because public hearings don't start until 12:30. So we'll actually get a lunch break today. Karen? No. Karen?
Thank you. I'm wondering if we have a couple minutes to go over the committee bill about municipalities' ordinances and regulating timber harvesting. I think it will be quick.
As long as it's quick.
Okay. So this is, you all voted to vote out a committee bill. I'm going to share my screen. I emailed this to you earlier this morning, but it essentially, so this was, I believe, Senator Black's bill in the first regular session, 1407. And last Thursday, you received a report from the Maine Forest Service about their recommendations. And so what the committee bill does is implements those recommendations. And I did run this by the Maine Forest Service Director, Patty Cormier, as well as the policy director, I'm not sure what his title is, but Don Mancius. And they are good with this. So again, I'm just going to go right to the summary here. I did put in the language that voting in favor of the committee bill doesn't mean you endorse everything in the bill, but it's merely for the purposes of getting this referred back to the committee for its usual course of a public hearing and a work session. So it clarifies the definition of timber harvesting activities by saying that it does not include activities that result in a change of land use. So it amends the definition of timber harvesting activities, and then it also adds a definition of change of land use, and that is currently already defined in their rule, but we put it in statute. The bill also provides that a municipal timber harvesting ordinance must adopt definitions for forestry terms that are consistent with definitions in Title 12, Section 8868, and with terms adopted by the commissioner. So this is basically saying any current ordinances need to adopt definitions that are in line with state law. And the bill also provides that municipal ordinances subject to review by the Bureau are limited to those that regulate timber harvesting activities. And it also says a timber harvesting ordinance adopted September 1st, 1990 on must meet the requirements of the subsection by June 30, 2026. And the subsection is 8869, all the stuff relating to municipal ordinances regulating timber harvesting. And it also provides that timber harvesting ordinance may be approved only after the Bureau certifies that the municipality adopted the ordinance in accordance with Title 12, 8869. And it also requires the municipal timber harvesting ordinance, that it be consistent with a comprehensive plan adopted by the municipal legislative body. And finally, it clarifies that the centralized listing of municipal ordinances maintained by the Bureau of Forestry specifically applies to ordinances that regulate timber harvesting activities. So I can get this on its way for production, and there will be more opportunity to tweak it as the committee would like.
Okay, very good. Any other questions or comments for Karen on that bill? All right, thank you. All right, so remember, we start back right at 12:30 for our public hearings. Thank you. Just the three of us? We'll get going. Oh, says Maggie.
Hey, Maggie.
They were all
Hey,
just
Maggie, I
listening
hear
to
they're
see
gonna
what they.
They're shutting the Saco Drive-In down, Maggie. What are you gonna do?
I'm so sad.
My,
It is. I just
hello,
saw
everybody.
that.
My video has been turned off by someone down there.
Well, I don't know. We'll ask.
Okay, I just got a note that said started up, so I did.
There you go. Welcome. Let's see. Well, we'll get going in a minute, but our first bill this afternoon is 8:56, and I don't see Representative Barry on my screen or in the waiting room.
And he's not signed up on the registry list, so I'm not sure.
Well, I think the other three are quite short, so I hope. So why don't we go ahead and at least start going down there and give him a chance to see if he's going to come. So
Would
let's.
you like me to try to find him?
Yeah, if you could.
Yep.
And we'll start with LD 981, a resolve authorizing the Bureau of Parks and Lands to authorize the district construction installation related to telecommunication in Bald Mountain in the town of Rangeley. Is that yours, Senator Black?
Yes, it is.
All right. Would you like to introduce that?
Sure would. Good afternoon, Senator Dill, Representative Neal, and members of the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. I am Senator Russell Black, and I represent Senate District 17. Today, I am here to present LD 1981, resolve authority, giving the authority to the Bureaus of Parks and Public Lands, the authority to add an additional construction and installation related to a telecommunications tower on Bald Mountain in the town of Rangeley. This resolve pertains to an existing tower on state land, owned land on Bald Mountain in Rangeley. A cellular tower company, phone company, and the owner of the tower reached an agreement to add an additional 18 feet to the tower to make it room for an additional infrastructure. This infrastructure will significantly increase connectivity and service around Rangeley, which is certainly needed. The project will also be used as part of FirstNet, a single nationwide network for public safety. If you think about the area around Rangeley, the mountains and hills and valleys, and the current amount of recreation around the Rangeley area, this project becomes even more important. As you probably can tell by the title of this resolve, this type of authorization is not normally before this legislature. In the past and in general, the Bureau of Parks and Public Lands handles this level of activity directly and without our involvement. However, because of the recent unrelated referendum activity and associated legal challenges, both BPL and the governor's office felt legislative approval was the proper avenue for addressing this land use issue. The language contained in LD 1981 simply allows BPL to authorize the construction on this existing tower with a shelter for a generator so that the first responders and publics can utilize the service even if the power goes out in the area. I am happy to answer any questions you may have, but members of those involved in this project will be testifying after me and can answer the more detailed questions that you may have. Thank you very much.
Any questions for Senator Black? All right, seeing none. Whoops, I see one. Representative Landry.
Thank you, Senator Black. It's good to see you this morning. Is that, I realize the need for this tower up there, but I'm wondering about the need for this work and committee. Do you know who's responsible for that?
No, I don't.
No? No, just checking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Other questions for Senator Black? All right, seeing none. Thank you for introducing the bill today. And I will turn to Director Patterson from the ACF. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. And my name is Bill Patterson, and I'm the Deputy Director at the Bureau of Parks and Lands for the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. I'm testifying neither for nor against LD 1981, which authorizes the Bureau of Parks and Lands to allow modifications to a cell tower on Bald Mountain in Rangeley. In 2011, the Bureau of Parks and Lands issued a lease to RCC Atlantic Incorporated to continue use of an existing communication tower on the public lot. The original lease and tower were established before 1993 when the Bureau acquired the public lot parcel. In 2020, American Tower Corporation, on behalf of RCC Atlantic, approached the Bureau for approval to extend the tower height and add equipment for AT&T to expand cell service to the local community and support public safety. It should be noted that the draft bill states ATC holds a sublease, which is incorrect. Rather, ATC has a management agreement with RCC Atlantic, and this error in lines 12 and 13 should be corrected. Public land leases for telecommunication facilities are authorized by Title 12 in the Maine Revised Statutes, Section 1852, Part 4. This statute was amended by question 1 in the November ballot such that, quote, any such poles, transmission lines, and facilities, landing strips, pipelines, and railroad tracks under this subsection are deemed to substantially alter the use of the land within the meaning of the Constitution of Maine, Article 9, Section 23, and a lease or conveyance for the purpose of constructing and operating such poles, transmission lines, and facilities, landing strips, pipelines, and railroad tracks under this subsection may not be granted without first obtaining a vote of 2/3 of all the members elected to each house of the legislature, end quote. Now, as a result of this change, the Bureau advised representatives for AT&T to seek legislative approval for this project. It is important to note that a deed restriction also exists for the Bald Mountain property regarding the height and visual impact of this tower. This deed restriction, which was imposed by the Rangeley Lakes Heritage Trust, states, quote, platforms, towers, and similar structures on the premises shall not extend above the tree line so as to significantly detract from the scenic and natural features of the premises as viewed from Cupsuptic, Mooselook-McGuntic, or Rangeley Lakes. To assist in evaluating visual impacts, consultants for the lessee created visual simulations to depict the view of the higher tower from various locations. Using these simulations last fall, the Bureau solicited public input on the visual impact of the increased tower height. The Bureau received 103 responses to the survey. While a number of respondents indicated some level of concern over the increased tower height, a majority of respondents believed the tower would not significantly detract from views. The Bureau is currently reviewing the proposed project for compliance with Bureau policy and the deed restrictions, and we have not made a final determination. LD 1981, if approved, would allow the Bureau to move forward with the review of the proposal. I would be glad to answer any questions now or at the work session. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Representative Schofield.
Thank you, Senator Dill. It's a different machine. I have to figure out where my mute button is. Thank you for being here, Deputy Director. And it just seems to me that this is unnecessary, and I understand the reason you're doing it because of the referendum last November. But it seems if it complies with the deed restrictions that were in place when the property was obtained, and it seems to me that the lease was entered into prior to the constitutional amendment. I'm just curious why the Bureau felt the need to do this. I mean, if they were going to paint it a different color, or if they were going to add something to it, another array, another addition to the tower, would it seem that the Bureau would feel that you'd need to come before us to make this happen? I think this is, if you could explain it, I'd appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Sure. The AT&T and their and the leaseholder ATC, the manager has been working with this for over a year, and they're eager to move this project forward. They would like to reduce uncertainty, but it was us on our part who advised them just to eliminate any doubt and to move the project forward with no certainty. It would be advisable to go to the legislature and just erase that doubt.
And if I have a follow-up, Senator Dill?
Yes.
So going forward, with other leases and other arrangements, if someone who has a lease on Bureau lands, if they decide that they'd like to, I can't even think of it, some minor alteration to some facility or some infrastructure that they might have on Bureau property that they lease, do you intend to continue with this line? Can you explain to us what your thinking is going forward?
Yes, we're obviously in a transition phase. There's new law in place, and I think that will settle out over time. Again, we want to just make sure that the applicant had the opportunity to make this this project go through if they wanted to, and we'll have to learn more about the application of the new law. But this was literally, we did the survey back in August, I believe it was, and so it's played out through a period of uncertainty on this front, and I think over time we'll gain a better sense of how that's going to operate.
Senator Dill, could I make a request?
Yes, sir.
For the work session, could you provide a spreadsheet of all the BPL land leases that now exist, and when the date of the original lease occurred, and a brief description of each of those leases? And could that something you could provide at the work session? Thank you.
Representative McCray.
Thank you, Senator Dill. I'm going to make a quick comment, then I do definitely have a relevant question. I think I speak for most people in the state of Maine. We do not want to see another referendum come out of something that it's unnecessary. So in that regard, I see this bill productive, albeit a little extra work. My question is, Deputy Director Patterson, is apparently there is a deed to this particular piece of land that this tower is located on, and it clearly restricts going above the tree line. So I'm assuming right now, as of this date, that tower does not go above the tree line, and this proposal would go above the tree line. Am I correct in interpreting that way?
Yeah, thank you for that question, because it's an important distinction to understand. The deed does not strictly prohibit the tower from going above tree line. It states that the tower may not extend above tree line so as significantly to detract, I forget the exact word, it's in my testimony, from the view, essentially. So it's a judgment call right in the deed itself. It does not say that it can't be. And that's why we put out the public survey, that we thought the public could best inform us of what the opinion on that was. So I think that's an important distinction. And the other point being that, deed description is a completely separate issue that we will need to resolve, apart from the 2/3 approval that this bill seeks. So this will simply enable us to move forward with the completion of that review, which we've already begun.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Are there other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next, I have Senator Bennett. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Senator Dill. I appreciate this hearing. Good afternoon, Representative O'Neill, esteemed members of the Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry Committee. I am State Senator Rick Bennett. I have the honor of serving 13 towns in Oxford and Cumberland counties in the Maine Senate. I'm here today to testify in support of both LD 1981 and 1983 in my testimony here. As I know you're aware, these bills deal with leases of public lands and have been brought forward in response to the Bureau of Parks and Lands response to question 1, a referendum that Maine voters passed into law that took effect in December. As an architect of the 1993 constitutional amendment, Article 9, Section 23, underlying all of this, I'm pleased to see the Bureau seeking legislative approval for leases which impact lands held in the public trust. While I've not seen the specific leases involved, there are a few points I'd like to clarify for the record and provide the committee with some context as you work through these two bills. 1, leases that predate the 1993 constitutional amendment are not subject to a vote of 2/3. 2, question 1 only applies the 2/3 vote requirement for leases signed on or after September 16, 2014, if they apply to 12 MRSA 1852, Section 4. The rest of that statute remains the same and has not been affected. For these two reasons, it doesn't seem evident to me that the legislature should be required to vote on either of these leases, but nonetheless, I am pleased to see the Bureau erring on the side of transparency and oversight and see no reason why these leases should not sail through the legislative process. Still, I must point out that the one lease that we all know beyond a shadow of a doubt was triggered by the referendum, the lease for the NECEC Transmission Corridor Project, is absent from review this session for reasons that defy logic. On November 2nd, 2021, nearly 60% of Maine voters made clear that the legislature is to hold not one, but 2 votes on this project, yet no bills have made it through the Legislative Council for consideration. This committee, in my view, can rectify that omission by combining these 2 bills, 1981 and 83, into one, and then using the shell of the other bill to put before the legislature the question that 60% of Maine voters demanded we take up, that the 2014, as amended by 2020, public lands lease for the CP corridor. Finally, I'd like to take a moment to thank the committee for supporting my other bill, LD 1075, to direct the department to return to the legislature with major substantive rules outlining a public and transparent process for determining if a sale, lease, or easement would substantially reduce or alter the use or value of public lands. As Justice Murphy pointed out in a ruling of the Black versus Cutco case last year, in the absence of a transparent and predefined process to make these determinations. Article 9, Section 23 of the Maine Constitution is hollow, and the legislature's ability to discharge its constitutional duty is undermined and thwarted. But LD 1075 is not yet law. And until it is, the rules have been approved by the legislature that will come from that law. I fully agree that the Bureau should err on the side of caution in approving all changes to the use and or value of our public lands. So much for your time. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? Representative Schofield.
Thank you, Senator Dill. Thank you, Senator Bennett. I too agree with you that it's best to err on the side of caution. And I think that the Bureau has got the message, and I'm glad that they have received the message, and it appears that they are better equipped to deal with things going forward. But getting back to your point about combining these two bills, could you go into that a bit further and describe the process that you envision that might be workable in order to accomplish what you mentioned just a few moments ago? Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Schofield. So in reviewing policy in this area, I have seen a number of bills that have been originated with the department, with the Bureau of Parks and Lands in the past, about subjects that they felt triggered Article 9, Section 23. And typically, the bills that resulted from that are it has the Article 29, Section 23 preamble language on top of it. And then there are sections of that one bill that would deal with various arrangements, sales, land swaps, whatever they may be. And each one would have its own section. And it would specify the legislature is voting that the Director of Parks and Lands is authorized to, but not directed to, enter into the following transactions, so that the Bureau would then, with the passage of the legislation, have 1/2 vote on multiple transactions. And then they would be authorized to do what the policy intended. It would be prescribed by the statute, but it would be encapsulated in one bill. So I think that has precedent and is easily done and could be done in the context of these two leases. And that would free up the other instrument to actually have the vote on the 2014 and 2020 leases. Because I think the people of Maine have asked us to vote on that. And we should follow through and vote on those leases. And in fact, I would go a step further and suggest that, that it's Black versus Cutco is an ongoing case. And I would think, I find it inconsistent, frankly, that the Bureau in this case is bringing these leases to the legislature, but not also abandoning Black versus Cutco, because it seems that they're now interpreting the law as standing, except for that Black versus Cutco issue, which is the main issue. So that's what I'd say to your idea.
Thank you very much. I think that proposal makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Underwood.
One question for Mr. Bennett. All these windmills on top of these mountains, they substantially alter the use of the land. Should anybody putting up a windmill be before this committee and give testimony as to why they're altering the use of the land?
Well, thank you, Representative Underwood. Certainly, if the land is on public lands that are held in trust for public enjoyment and benefit, which is what Article 9, Section 23 covers, yes, they should. Most of those, however, on private lands, and it has its own tortuous history with respect to legislative approvals and changing, our zoning laws as it relates to mountaintops. But that doesn't really relate to this issue unless they are on public lands.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Senator Bennett? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony this
Thanks for
afternoon.
your time today. Thanks.
All right, next in favor of the bill, we have Owen Smith. And just before you start, just before you start, I do have a timer, and we time folks at 3 minutes. So I will let you know when the 3 minutes are up.
Great. Thank you very much. And Chair Dill, Chair O'Neill, thank you, along with the members of the committee, for the opportunity to testify in favor of LD 1981 on behalf of AT&T. My name is Owen Smith. I'm the state president for AT&T here in Maine. I reside in Gorham, have for a long time. I don't want to repeat what's already been said. I would like to thank Senator Black for his willingness to sponsor this bill in trying to improve cell coverage for his constituents, including public safety. I wanted to mention a little bit about FirstNet and why this is important. Back in 2018, the federal contract was issued by the FirstNet Authority to build out this network for public safety. We met with the state. The state opted in to have AT&T build it versus doing it themselves. All 50 states did the same thing. We immediately began working with the Maine Interoperable Communications Committee and identified those sites. 3 years later, at $150 million investment, AT&T has the largest network along with FirstNet in the state. So one of the proposed sites was Bald Mountain. And we've been working with American Tower to extend the existing site by 18 feet. There's been significant support from the town of Rangeley. We have a letter saying that if the state will consent, that they will issue a building permit for us to do this. The Mooselook-Maguntic Improvement Association, the Lake Association, has supported this. Franklin County Sheriff, I think, has submitted a letter as well. We have the Maine Warden Service and Maine Forest Service that use FirstNet all over the state. Environmentally, we've done everything necessary to be minimum environmental impact, including we don't have to do anything to the road going up there. So essentially, we were told by Parks and Lands that this would be the quickest path forward. The FirstNet Authority has set a mandatory deadline of March 31st of 23 for us to complete our initial phase and build out of the contract in all of the sites in Maine and elsewhere. Because of that deadline imposed by the federal government, the FirstNet Authority, we're before the committee and ask you to support the passage of the resolution giving consent to move forward on this project. And again, I thank Senator Black. I've attached more information on FirstNet, the letters from the town of Rangeley and Mooselook-Maguntic, also a simulation of the 18-foot extension observed from the observation deck that is up on top of the mountain. So with that, I will happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions, Mr. Smith? All right, seeing none. Again, thank you for your testimony. Neither for nor against. I have Liz Hill.
Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and the members of the committee. My name is Liz Hill, and I'm speaking on behalf of American Tower. American Tower has an agreement with Verizon whereby we manage the lease between the Bureau of Public Lands and Verizon on Bald Mountain in Rangeley, Maine, which is the subject of the resolve. We maintain and operate the site, including negotiating and executing agreements for new equipment, such as the extension at issue. We note that the resolve identifies American Tower as a sublessee, and that language should be corrected to identify us as a manager. We support the opportunity to extend the height of the tower to accommodate the additional equipment. And as Owen said, we have been in negotiation with AT&T for that. It is our understanding that this equipment will be used to support FirstNet, which is the nation's public safety communications network. We've reviewed the legal requirements for this extension with our legal counsel, and we do not believe that the approval of the legislature is required under Article 9, Section 23. That provision requires approval for a use that would substantially alter the use of public land held for recreation or conservation. In this case, the extension of the tower would not alter the use of the land because the structure already exists for the same purpose that is being proposed by the extension. Moreover, the tower is located on land owned by the Bureau, which is governed by a lease that was executed in September of 2011, which predates the retroactive effective date of the recent amendment to Title 12, Section 1852, that requires approval for telecommunications facilities on public lands by the legislature. The proposed extension requires the consent of the Bureau, but not an amendment to the underlying documents. Nevertheless, if the committee determines that such approval is needed, we urge the committee to recommend approval of the extension. Thank you for the opportunity to testify, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
And finally, on this bill, neither for nor against is Tom Saviello.
Boy, with that introduction. Thank you, Senator Dill and Representative O'Neill and members of the committee. I am Tom Saviello. I'm a citizen of Wilton, and I had a little bit to do with referendum question number 1 this past fall. I do believe I have already paid homage to this committee because I was a former committee member. However, when you come back for real, I suspect if Senator Black doesn't eat it himself, there'll be a special treat for you. I am testifying neither for nor against because I too don't think this bill is necessary, and actually for 2 reasons, so I want to reemphasize them. One, as Mr. Patterson said, the original lease was entered into prior to the constitutional amendment in 1993. And second, that the lease was signed before the September 16, 2014. So question 1 really does not come into play. I also do believe there is no substantial alteration of the public lands, but since the department does not have any criteria to make this determination, the lease would need legislative approval if it were signed after the September 16, 2014. However, thanks to this good committee, you have passed LD 1075, which will require the Bureau to bring in how they will determine a substantial alteration of the properties on public lands. You can go back to Representative Underwood's question. However, that's in the future. But I do applaud BPL for bringing this forward, and they obviously understand the requirement by the revised law. I certainly do like Senator Bennett's idea, would support that, but if not, and you run the bills individually, I would suggest that you probably have this as an ought to pass, but I wanted to speak neither for nor against because I'm not sure the bill is really necessary either. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions for Mr. Saviello?
No.
Yeah, Representative McCray.
I just couldn't, sir, I couldn't let you off that easily.
Oh, come on.
Well, yeah, well, anyway, the question I have is, if this goes forward and goes to the legislature, and I would assume that it would get its 2/3 if necessary, there would be no harm in this unless it was defeated, correct?
That's correct. I mean, I think it's a good recognition that what was done by the people in September and in November is meaningful, and the department recognizes the law. Just if you get into the details of it, it might not be necessary, but I think it's a good step. And I think as Representative Schofield asked the question, would this cover similar telecommunications, power lines and so forth? And the answer was yes. I think it's a good move forward. And as I said, I applaud the department for bringing it to you.
Thank you very much. Good seeing you.
Good seeing you, David. Representative.
That's okay.
Senator Black.
Stop it.
Mr. Chair, seeing this, my bill, would you allow me to ask a question?
Yes.
Mr. Saviello, Honorable Saviello, Tom Saviello, would you, I'm a little confused about what Senator Rick Bennett was talking about. My concern is that we've got 2 individual bills here, which, like mine, they talked about a deadline of getting it constructed and whatever. Would it convolute the situation too much by putting the 2 bills and what Senator Bennett was talking about, that's my concern. Could you elaborate a little bit there?
Yeah, just as background, some of you may remember LD 471, which I think this committee is going to kill. But what Senator Bennett is talking about is in the referendum question, there was a comment made about a requirement that the lease be invalidated on the public lands that are crossed by the corridor, the NECEC corridor. And Senator Bennett feels like, and I agree with him, that the legislature should vote on that. So this may, and as you all know, the Legislative Council, for a number of reasons, which have nothing to do with the bill itself, would not let that bill in. So I think this is a case of putting it in there. I think we'd have to be very careful on how it's worded, and would be glad to work with you to help do that. And bringing the two bills together does make sense in some ways because it's just one less to run. But I leave that up to the committee to decide. Certainly, if you want to pursue that, bringing all three of them together, I can help. And you actually have a fourth bill that's going to come in probably next week that deals with a similar situation, I believe, in Aroostook County too. I think it is. But anyway, would suggest that we can look into it if you want.
Thank you. I'm just a little concerned that it would hinder the other two bills going forward. That is my first thoughts, but we can discuss that. Thank you very much.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Saviello? All right, seeing none, I will close the public hearing on LD 1981, and it appears that there may be some things out there, requests for more information, possibility of combining a couple bills during the work session. So I don't think we should go with, there was some talk about going directly into work session today. But I think it's probably better if we wait for the week so everybody can absorb what's going on and what has been said. So I will move back. Senator Black, you still have your hand up. Did you just not take it down, or did you have another question before I close the hearing?
No, I just hadn't taken it down. Sorry about that.
No problem. So I will close the hearing on LD 1981, and we'll go back to the beginning, and we'll go back to LD 856, an act to balance renewable energy development with natural and working lands conservation. And this is to be presented by Representative Seth Berry. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Senator Dill and Representative O'Neill, members of the ACF committee. It's great to be back with you. We visited recently on this exact topic, and here I am today to present the sponsor's amendment to LD 856, which you all received last week by email from your committee analyst. And I want to just walk you through what that sponsor's amendment would do and how it would help us to strike a balance between our very important use of land and our very important goals around renewable energy development. But first, let me just say, yes, I am Representative Seth Berry, and I represent House District 55, which is Bowdoin, Bodenham, most of Richmond, and beautiful Swan Island on the Kennebec. And LD 856, an act to balance renewable energy development with natural and working lands conservation, with the amended language, would really help us to strike this balance in a more precise way. We have seen enormous interest in developing renewable energy. Certainly from my committee's perspective, that's very exciting. Our goal on the Energy Utilities and Technology Committee is always to make sure that we're getting the best bang for our buck. And your committee, the ACF committee, is a big part of that. This bill is an effort to bring together the work of my committee with the work of your committee, and specifically the importance of our lands, our natural and working lands, conserving the very best farmlands, conserving the very best forest, making sure that siting of our renewable energy resources is thoughtful and targeted is really the long-term goal that we're all working on as we make this transition. So to review where we are now, and where we've been and where we're going. Just a reminder that in the 129th legislature, a number of policies were enacted that did encourage more renewable energy development. That included solar farms. And because of those policies and also the price of solar and the very significant interest in procuring renewable energy, we have seen a real uptick in the building and siting and permitting of solar energy installations. These facilities range in size from, an acre or less to, as much as 700 acres. We've seen some of those. We've seen some headlines about a proposal that's at that scale. And it's important to keep in mind that the market for different size projects, if we're talking about solar, really varies enormously. So the policies that were put in place in the 129th, many of them pertain to projects that are 5 megawatts and below. So in that space, you're looking at about 20 acres or less. And there are these larger, what are called grid scale procurements, which tend to be more than 20 acres. So when we talk about different solar installations today, as I suspect we will, we want to keep in mind that there really are very different market considerations for the developers of these different projects. And Maine's policies are targeted to both, but they are especially generating interest in that smaller space, that 20 acres or below at present. And where we're heading in the EUT committee and through some work in the governor's energy office, specifically a group called the Distributed Generation Stakeholder Group, is towards a reduction in that size procurement down to 2 megawatts or less. So I'm ballparking here, forgive me, but think 8 acres or less. That size is probably what will continue to be particularly of interest for the net metering policies that have generated so much talk and that many of you are most familiar with. At the same time, Maine will have continued interest in larger scale procurement, and that's more driven by policies that may be coming from other parts of New England. We are part of a regional grid. We're part of what's called the ISO New England territory. That's most of Maine. There is a portion up in Aroostook that's part of a different. It has its own system operator. But most of Maine is part of ISO New England, and even up in Aroostook, if we do develop more interconnection with that region, there could be in the future continued interest, perhaps escalating interest in developing our public lands, our natural and working lands for these kinds of larger projects. Perhaps for procurements in other jurisdictions, procurement that answers an interest in Massachusetts, for example, or in New Hampshire or Connecticut for renewable energy that they would procure. So I guess the reason I'm giving this background is that my committee can only do so much to direct the development in the right places. And we believe that your committee is instrumental in helping to refine the map, if you will, and I think part of the bill is really to actually create a map so that we can begin to refine incentives and decision-making around what we want to see in what places. There's a lot that we need to find out in order to do that. And that's a big part of what this bill as amended would do. So specifically, the amendment would direct the governor's Energy Office to do some things, and it would also direct the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry to do some things, and finally the DEP to do some things. The Governor's Energy Office would create and maintain under Section 3 a publicly accessible database of fully permitted or constructed energy projects that could be used to identify land use and other energy trends. It would include, but not be limited to, geospatial data, obviously very important for decision making. And they can collect that data from a number of state agencies and other relevant entities. The next portion pertaining to the Governor's Energy Office is to plan for a pilot program that would study the feasibility of dual use projects. I think you're all aware from the discussion a couple of weeks ago that there are very exciting, innovative dual use opportunities for agriculture to coexist with solar installations. And so this pilot project would involve a plan to test and study the efficacy and potential benefits of systems that are dual use, actively farmed, and also actively producing solar. And this is a very exciting opportunity for farmers who want to keep their land active in farming, but really, oftentimes are struggling to make ends meet in farming and could very much use that additional income that a solar array offers. There are dual use arrays in Maine currently. I was very privileged to be at the ribbon cutting ceremony for a dual use project in Rockport recently, and that is farming blueberries underneath solar panels. The University of Massachusetts at Amherst is doing a lot of work in this space as well. Different crops, however, have different needs, and it's important that we really begin to understand what works and what doesn't work. Solar can help with retaining moisture. A little bit of shade can be beneficial for some crops and can reduce the need for irrigation. But at the same time, there are circumstances where the more limited light might not be helpful for a particular crop. So it's very crop dependent, very location specific. And this dual use project would allow us to better understand the practicalities of dual use here in Maine with respect to different crops. So the pilot program would have a total capacity of at least 20 megawatts. Just to put that in perspective, again, that's probably in the vicinity of 20 times 4. So, around 80 acres total. And that would be broken up in all likelihood into several different projects. The projects would be diverse. They would involve the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry in the research, looking at compatible crops, grazing operations, and other agricultural or horticultural uses of the land to determine best practices. And there would be a process for landowners, as well as an evaluation process and selection criteria involved. The GEO would then, in consultation and coordination with the department, submit a plan for implementing this pilot project back to your committee, to my committee, Energy, Utilities, and Technology, and to the Environment and Natural Resources Committee no later than March 1st of next year. And each of the committees would be authorized to report out a bill relating to that report based on the plan. So before anything actually moved forward, we would have the benefit of a plan for this work and could shape it a little more if we chose to do that in the legislative branch. In addition, and I mentioned that there was some work going on at the Governor's Energy Office currently around refining our procurement policies for renewable energy, and specifically moving from, in all likelihood, from the 5 megawatt procurement down to 2 megawatts. with some other changes. The Governor's Energy Office is in very active discussions as part of this distributed generation working group. And the bill in section 6 would include agricultural and natural resources stakeholders in those DG stakeholder group siting working sessions. I think that's incredibly important, and I'm very pleased with this language, which, by the way, the GO and the department have worked on with me, in addition to Maine Farmland Trust, the Maine Audubon Society, and others who you'll hear from today. This would require that in these work sessions involving DACF, that things like prioritization of contaminated lands, brownfields, lands contaminated with PFAs and PFOs, rooftops, gravel pits, previously developed parcels, and other criteria, rare, threatened, and endangered species, and rare and exemplary natural communities, that all of these be very carefully considered in at least 3 meetings in order to develop recommendations that help us to avoid and minimize and compensate for any agricultural and natural resource impacts. So I think that also is a really important process. It requires a lot of expertise, and adding some agricultural and natural resources stakeholders to that DG work should be very fruitful in helping to break down the silos that we sometimes live in our departments and in our committees. In order to carry all this work forward, there is a fiscal impact to the bill. It does require some additional ability and expertise, both at the Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry Department in the Bureau of Agriculture, and also in the Governor's Energy Office. And specifically, it's a position for each department and some additional funding for the technology that is necessary to create the database with the geospatial data at the Governor's Energy Office. So total fiscal impact of around $300,000. I will note that we just received some additional good news about revenue projections. So this may be a good time for this, temporary expenditure. And I would emphasize that this position shouldn't be necessary forever. It should be something that we use to solve the problem before us, which is how do we get the biggest bang for our buck and make sure that our prime soils, our best forests are being protected to the greatest extent possible, and that the places that are most advantageous for renewable energy development are the places we're directing that kind of development. And one last thing I will mention is that there's the permit by rule provision. There is also in the bill in section 4 provision regarding permit by rule, and I will let the Department of Environmental Protection speak to that. Essentially, permit by rule is a process where the DEP implements existing laws, including federal laws, and determines whether a particular permit process can be streamlined because the applicant has clearly met all the standards and no further process is needed. So with that, I do hope that we can move forward on the next stage in this very important transition to renewable energy. I will say that there are land use implications for all of our policies, whether we're burning fossil fuels to create our energy or whether we are finding ways to generate that energy renewably. And they look different. A solar farm is very tangible. It's very, obvious what's going on there. It's pretty different from an oil field or a natural gas field or a coal mine. But hopefully in the long run, Maine can really be an economic engine for the region as we shift to a clean energy future, and can do so while still protecting our incredible opportunity to be the breadbasket for New England, and also as our flag suggests, a great place for forestry and forest products as well. So, and of course, habitat. So with that, I will be happy to try to answer any questions, or better yet, defer them to people coming after me.
Are there any questions for Representative Berry? Representative Hall?
Yes, thank you, Senator Dill, and thank you, Representative Berry, for being here and presenting this bill. You kind of lost me on a couple of things there, and I'm not sure where you're headed with this bill. I guess I'm having to read between the lines. Can you explain a little bit more? Is this like to try to force some government regulations on private landowners as to whether or not they can develop a solar farm or what? I'm confused, but that's kind of the direction this seems like this is heading in. Can you clarify that, please?
Yeah, Representative Hall, thank you very much for that excellent question. The answer is absolutely not. This is absolutely in no way about forcing restrictions on land use for anyone. It's really more about what do we currently want to pay for. If we're paying for distributed solar and maybe giving that a slightly, more attractive rate, for example, than we're currently giving to less renewable, less local resources, then should that be, should those kinds of projects be sited on, prime agricultural farmland? Is that something we want to pay for? Or do we want to maybe pay a little less for that kind of a project and a little more, for example, if it's on a farm that's been contaminated by PFAS? I think we can all agree that for a farmer who has lost their land because of PFAS contamination, that we might want to help that family, help that individual to make ends meet and to put their land to the best and highest use. So it's really, I think in the long run, and that's just an example, but it's really in the long run about deciding what we value and putting an appropriate price on that. Currently our policies over in my committee are, they're about what we value in terms of the resource. Do we value solar? Do we value storage? Do we value efficiency? What are the prices for those resources? What should be the price for natural gas? But we don't look at land use. That's where we need your help. And that's what this bill is asking, essentially, is can you help us? Can your committee, can your department help us to figure out the best and highest use of our land?
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the answer.
Are there other questions? Seeing none, thank you for presenting the bill this afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay, next I have Nick Livesay from DEP.
Senator Dillon and Representative O'Neill, committee members, I will be brief. I am here not to deliver the administration's testimony. I think Melissa from the governor's energy office is, and so that we can be most efficient in our time. If you have questions for me, I'm certainly joining in her testimony and support it, but I don't need to say anything more unless you have questions for me. I'm trying to have us piggyback on each other's work.
All right. Are there any questions for Nick from the DEP at the moment? If not, we can come back to him. All right, then we'll go to Melissa Nguyen. If we can get her in here. I think she's on her way. There she is. She's popping up anyway. Can you hear me, Melissa? There you are.
Yes, thank you. All set to go ahead?
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Melissa Winnie, and I am an Energy Policy Advisor in the Governor's Energy Office, testifying today in support of LD 856. Given the great overview provided by Representative Berry, I will not reiterate that, but move on to our position here. The GEO, we're committed to pursuing the opportunity for dual use solar development prudently and on the basis of research and data to ensure it is developed in a way that provides the greatest benefit to the state and landowners, while balancing the need to protect Maine's current and future farmland with the need to develop sources of renewable solar energy. Given this commitment and understanding of the benefit that a small pilot program would provide and further understanding the outcome of targeted dual use applications, the GEO is supportive of the proposed pilot program outlined in Section 5 of the sponsors amendment. We would like to note that while we're open to moving forward with a pilot program specifically targeting agricultural and horticultural lands, the committee may want to consider expanding the type of projects to be considered for pilot applications to solar projects deployed in conjunction with other activities, for example, canopies over parking lots or floating arrays in certain controlled aquatic sites. In addition, with regard to Section 6, it is the GEO's intention to continue the process proposed in the Distributed Generation Stakeholder Group's interim report, which specifies engaging stakeholders and experts on issues including land use, as well as equity and other topics. We are actively coordinating with DACF to develop the scope of those issue-focused work sessions directed toward land use, which will include agricultural lands and involve consideration of specific policies and programmatic designs to balance these issues, including those that are contemplated in this Section 6. The GEO recognizes the importance of this engagement, as well as engaging with stakeholders on other key issues, including equity, and we will move forward with those issues as described in the interim report. We're supportive of ensuring that agricultural natural resource stakeholders are engaged in the work of the Distributed Generation Stakeholder Group, particularly as pertains to land use and siting. While we do not feel it is necessary to direct this engagement in statute, as we will continue to work with DACF and relevant stakeholders to adhere to the requirements outlined in the bill, and we will do that with or without the passage of that section of legislation. And finally, we appreciate the direction outlined to establish a publicly accessible database of energy projects that are fully permitted or constructed, and that's outlined in Section 3, Paragraph K. We feel like this would be a helpful tool in future decision-making related to the location of renewable energy project development. As Representative Berry mentioned, we would like to ensure that there's adequate funding that would be allocated for the development of this database and the pilot program, as well as that staff member to help develop the database and the other initiatives outlined in this legislation. So we have provided that funding allocation as a component of this. So with all of that, we support the proposal for collecting additional data and learning more about the interactions and benefits for dual use projects. And we look forward to the natural and working land stakeholders' ongoing engagement in the DG stakeholder group work over the next year. There are a lot of opportunities ahead, and we are excited about the continued engagement to work on these important issues. Thank you for your time. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony this afternoon. Next is Nancy McBrady from Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. Welcome, Director McBrady.
Good afternoon, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Nancy McBrady, and I'm the Director of the Bureau of Agriculture, Food, and Rural Resources within the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. I'm speaking in support of LD 856. The department supports renewable energy development in Maine and understands that solar is a key component of reducing our reliance on fossil fuels. We also support opportunities for farmers to address their own energy needs with renewable sources and to enhance the economic viability of their operations with thoughtful siting of renewable energy infrastructure. To that end, the department helped steward an agricultural solar siting stakeholder group that was convened during 2021 and resulted in a report that made several recommendations regarding solar ag policy development. LD 856 is a direct outgrowth of that stakeholder process, and we thank Representative Berry for his efforts. The department supports this legislation's creation of a database that tracks energy projects in Maine. Robust data collection and transparent distribution of information regarding permitted and constructed renewable energy projects are critical. Information regarding such projects is currently hard to find and often incomplete. Access to this data will allow a solid understanding of existing or soon to be developed solar sites and locations in the state, enabling the calculation of impacted lands, acreage, soil types, and other important trends. It will also allow stakeholders to ascertain whether there appears to be overdevelopment occurring in certain areas and to consider strategies to avoid that. The department further supports creating a pilot program that will explore the potential for dual-use solar projects in Maine. A pilot program is needed to conduct the critical research necessary on compatible crops and livestock in Maine to determine viability for farmers interested in pursuing solar energy generation on their land while continuing to farm actively. We need to assess the economic benefits of dual-use development on various types of farms, producing a multitude of crops, as well as crop productivity in fruit and vegetable operations, the quality and quantity of forage and livestock systems, and the efficacy of energy generation at these sites. The results of a well-developed pilot program plan will be instrumental in demonstrating whether dual-use solar development is viable in Maine and could further additional future policy developments supporting dual-use growth. The department also supports having agricultural representatives engage with the governor's energy office, their ongoing distributed generation stakeholder group. That group is working to issue recommendations that support the continued development of renewable energy in Maine through cost-effective distributed generation. Therefore, it is critical for that stakeholder group to determine how to incorporate agricultural site characteristics and natural resource characteristics into future state long-term contracts or compensation mechanisms. The department and the GO are committed to working together to ensure that agricultural representatives are actively included in the stakeholder group discussions. Last, in order for the department to successfully support, engage, and advance solar policy that supports agriculture in Maine, we must have a new full-time staff member join our team. We currently lack the expertise and headcount necessary to dedicate to this complex, technical, and critical policy arena. We appreciate Representative Berry's willingness to add this permanent funded position to this bill, and the department won't successfully meet the bill's charge without this new staff person. So thank you for your time. I will be very happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions for Director McBrady? Seeing none, I have, thank you for your testimony. We have several people here who are interested in testifying in favor. So Cheryl, if you want to let in the next three, which is Doreen McGillis, Eliza Donahue, and Alan Griswold, please. All right, we'll start with Doreen. Welcome. Start when you're ready.
All right, good afternoon, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Doreen McGillis. I'm the Executive Director of York Land Trust, and would like to express my support for the amendment proposed for LD 856. The York Land Trust works in the very southern part of the state to protect lands of ecological, agricultural, educational, recreational, and cultural significance in the greater York area. And we have protected over 3,000 acres of land that we hold in fee or in conservation easements. And recently I was listening in on a York Planning Board meeting where they approved the development of a major solar development project covering an area that's about 20 acres in size on a large property on the York River within a focus area that is of statewide ecological significance, according to the Maine Natural Areas Program. So in addition to some of the major tree clearing that's going to occur to accommodate the solar panels, and a road that will be developed to the site, and a chain link fence that will encompass the entire perimeter of the developed area. You know, I just thought that this seemed like maybe not a compatible use for such a sensitive area. The fence is going to be impermeable to wildlife, as the gap under the fence will be no more than 6 inches high, and there'll be no ability for vegetation to grow under the solar panels. So conversations today about exploring the possibility of the opportunities for dual use solar development, I think is of particular interest, where you know, there wouldn't be fences around the solar panels, where vegetation can grow underneath, where wildlife can roam freely. It would really help support the other conservation values on, you know, sensitive, ecologically important lands and agricultural lands. So, you know, York Land Trust, we are very supportive of renewable energy production. We know we must have more in the state. We know we need to address climate change urgently, and that it will be an important part of the mix of energy we need for the future. But having, you know, places where solar panels maybe aren't well suited for development is not a great win from a conservation perspective. And so, you know, the impacts of renewable energy development on important natural resources and farmland, those are going to increase the more projects that go into place, unless, you know, we can do more to take into consideration, you know, where projects are sited, and, you know, making sure that they're well designed to minimize those impacts. And that's really why this bill is needed. It will help ensure that natural resource stakeholders can take part in the siting discussions, and it would also provide some of the tools, the staffing, the resources, and information that will ultimately help create more balanced, well-sited renewable energy projects that are designed in ways that are more compatible with the protection of critical conservation and agricultural resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Representative Hall.
Yes, thank you, Senator Dill, and thank you for your testimony. You mentioned that under the solar panel in this array you was talking about in York County, there'd be no vegetation growth. Can you explain why there wouldn't be? I know all the other ones that we're talking about, they just, and Representative Barry was talking about blueberry growth, and I know they're talking about pasturing sheep and whatnot under some. I'm just curious as to why you might say that there would be no vegetative growth under this particular solar array.
Yeah, the way that I understand it is that the solar companies really need to keep down the vegetation underneath the panels. And so there might even be the use of herbicides to do that. Plus there will be no light getting in under the panels because it will be completely surrounded by a fence on all sides. And they will be densely packed, you know, to get in as many as possible on the acreage that's being developed. I believe that maybe Representative Barry can speak to this, but the blueberry project would have to be probably on panels that are raised up higher, and so that they're spaced more broadly so that that light can get in underneath the panels. So that's not the case in a more conventional solar array design.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you for your testimony. Eliza, welcome.
Hey everyone, thank you Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the committee. My name is Eliza Donahue. I represent Maine Audubon and our 30,000 members and supporters, and I'm very happy to be supporting LD 856. We support this legislation for a variety of reasons, because it progresses the recommendations coming out of the Agricultural Solar Stakeholder Group, of which we took part. We believe that this legislation is reflective of the committee's conversation that was had when the DACF presented their LD 820 report a couple weeks ago. And we also support this legislation because it will advance a number of strategies in Maine Won't Wait, Maine's Climate Action Plan, including a strategy that asks for the development of policies to ensure renewable energy project siting is streamlined, transparent, and seeks to minimize impacts to natural and working lands by engaging key stakeholders. Maine Audubon is a very strong supporter of renewable energy development, including solar. As others have said before us, rapid deployment of new renewable energy resources is critical to reducing our reliance on fossil fuels and avoiding the worst impacts of climate change. This is the leading threat to Maine's wildlife and wildlife habitat, the conservation of which is central to Maine Audubon's mission. And at the same time, that new renewable energy development, like any new development, if it's not thoughtfully sited, can displace wildlife habitat and negatively impact our natural resources, including agricultural resources. My written testimony outlines, our specific reasons for supporting each of the many elements of this bill. I will not go through all of those. However, I would welcome any questions as to why Maine Audubon supports either this concept generally or specific aspects of the bill, but I will keep my testimony at that. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Representative Schofield.
Thank you, Senator Dill. Good afternoon, Ms. Townsend. Nice to see you. I'm Eliza, and I just had a question about, I know there are certain times of the year that fields aren't mowed or mowing is delayed because of some species of birds or whatever that are involved, and to prepare for those and to make them better viable for breeding and whatnot. Has there been any studies by Audubon regarding solar panels and its effects on wildlife that are inhabit these fields, these open areas that are amenable to solar panels? Has there been any thoughts about that? Just curious.
Oh, are you guys? Okay, sorry, I thought you were all frozen for a second. Understanding how, I'm gonna turn off. Are you guys hearing me okay?
Yes.
Okay, sorry, my computer's telling me different things about that. Anyway, understanding the balance between wildlife that inhabits many of these fields where solar projects are often located has been central to our work for quite some time. And there are impacts from solar panels on what are generally considered to be field nesting birds. Frankly, solar panels displace many of those species. However, as I've said in my testimony, Maine Audubon it's not acceptable for us to say no, those projects can't go there. Instead, what we're doing right now is we work very closely with a number of solar project developers on understanding what vegetation can grow under these solar projects, particularly vegetation that is native to Maine, that has positive impacts for pollinator species and other wildlife. We've had a lot of really wonderful success with both in-state and out-of-state solar developers, and encouraging them to make what we think are very positive vegetation management decisions. And right now we're actually working on finalizing a guide so that even more solar developers can utilize those practices when they build out those projects.
Thank you, Ms. Donahue. Appreciate the information.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony this afternoon. Next is Ellen Griswold, followed by Emily Cole, Heather Spalding, and Jack Shapiro. Welcome, Ellen.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the committee. My name is Ellen Griswold, and I'm testifying today on behalf of Maine Farmland Trust in support of the amendment to LD 856. MFT supports renewable energy production on farms as long as it does not significantly diminish the potential for agricultural production. On-site energy production, On-site energy production can provide economic support to a farm, reduce the farm's energy costs, and is important for addressing climate change. But making sure we have the land base to support a robust local and regional food system and food security in Maine is also critical. As renewable energy development has increased in the state, so too has our understanding of the impacts that these projects can have on the amount of farmland taken out of production, the loss of important agricultural soils, and the competition for land that farmers need to lease in order to support their operations. MFT believes that solar generation and agriculture can coexist symbiotically in Maine as long as solar siting is structured to balance these important interests. Because of this belief, MFT was thrilled to participate in the agricultural solar siting stakeholder group that was created by LD 820. LD 856, as amended, would advance key stakeholder group recommendations for supporting balanced solar development. First, as you've heard, the legislation would create the opportunity to investigate the potential for dual-use solar projects in Maine by reserving at least 20 megawatts of capacity for a pilot program. This pilot would allow for the establishment of a sufficient number of projects involving different types of agriculture so that DACF and its partners can collect data and determine how these projects affect agricultural production and what types of benefits, costs, and support needs are associated with this type of development. This collection of data is critical for understanding whether and how this can be a viable model for solar production in the state. Second, the amendment would ensure that agricultural and natural resource stakeholders are involved in the siting work sessions of the distributed generation stakeholder group. The inclusion of these stakeholders is important so that we make sure that important agricultural and natural resource interests are considered and that well-sited projects are prioritized and supported in renewable energy programs. The language in LD 856 will provide the structure for that inclusion and ensure that enough time is provided for meaningful discussion and the creation of important policy tools. Third, the legislation will provide DACF with the staffing and resources it needs to assist with solar policy development in the state, including analyzing land use impacts, supporting the dual use pilot program, and providing technical assistance to municipalities. And finally, the amendment would provide GEO with the resources it needs to create the database of key characteristics of fully permitted or constructed projects so that land use trends can be identified and strategies can be created to avoid the overdevelopment of important resources. For all these reasons, we hope that you will support LD 856 and ensure that renewable energy generation and agriculture coexist in Maine in a mutually beneficial manner. Thank you so much, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you for your testimony this afternoon. Next is Emily Cole. Welcome.
Thank you, and good afternoon, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and the other members of the Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. My name is Dr. Emily Cole. I'm a soil scientist, and I'm the Regional Deputy Director of American Farmland Trust for New England. I am really happy to be here today and testify on behalf of American Farmland Trust in support of LD 856 as amended by Representative Berry. As Maine moves to capture the environmental, economic, and energy benefits of clean, renewable energy, we also must minimize the impacts on Maine's agriculture by protecting production on the state's best farmland. AFT has a long history of working in Maine, stemming back from our role supporting the first farmland protection projects undertaken through the Land for Maine's Future program. And more recently, we were honored to be a member of the Agricultural Solar Stakeholder Group. LD 856 as amended advances key recommendations of that stakeholder group. And with worsening climate impacts that our farmers are feeling every growing season, and with the devastating discoveries of forever chemicals like PFAS that are contaminating our farmlands, the livelihood of Maine's farmers have never been at greater risk. And AFT feels that well-sited and thoughtfully designed dual-use solar energy installations can provide an opportunity to maintain farmland production on Maine's best farmland, to advance clean energy generation, and provide farmers increased security through diversified income sources. AFT supports the creation of the public database of solar energy projects and their important project and land use characteristics as detailed in Section 4. We also support increasing the capacity of the Bureau of Agriculture to provide technical support for municipalities who are considering solar project proposals. That is in Section 7. This increased data transparency and technical support are really vital to understanding the role that Maine's farmland plays now and in the future in meeting the state's clean energy goals, but also in understanding the impacts that is having on Maine's farmland. AFT also supports a robust dual-use pilot program. As detailed in Section 5, it provides the opportunity to conduct research on production systems and project designs to better understand what is most compatible with Maine's agricultural landscape and economy. Many solar installations on farmland cover the land in ways that change, reduce, or even eliminate the potential for production on site. In those instances, we're trading off one form of solar energy, photosynthesis of plants, for another in solar energy through PV panels. A way to optimize this trade-off is actually to harvest both on site, and that's what dual-use arrays can do. The benefit of dual-use solar installations has been well documented as of the last 10 or 15 years in research, and there's increased moisture retention in times of drought, increased pasture biomass in the warmest summer months, reduced heat stress for livestock who are grazing on site, and even increased yields for some shade-loving vegetable crops. With the proposed dual-use pilot planning process, the inclusion of data collection can help evaluate Maine-specific crop, soil, and climate impact data to address concerns around solar installation and crop production compatibility. To ensure robust data collection, though, AFT actually encourages a more substantial allocation of generating capacity within such a pilot program, seeking at least 50 megawatts to really be able to have a diverse set of projects. And that 50 megawatts would still max out the acreage in this program to about 200 acres.
Can you finish up in 2 or 3 sentences, please?
Yes, absolutely. As amended, this bill provides the mechanisms to support the state of Maine's renewable energy goals, increase solar energy project data transparency, and better understand the impacts of solar energy on Maine's farmlands and Maine's family farms. And I'll pause there and thank you for the opportunity to testify in favor of LD 856 as amended by Representative Berry, and thank you for consideration of the comments.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, seeing none. Again, thank you for your testimony. Next is Heather. Welcome, Heather.
Hello, good afternoon, Senator Dill and Representative O'Neill and members of the ACF committee. I'm Heather Spalding, Deputy Director of Maine Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association. MOFGA envisions a future of healthy ecosystems, communities, people, and economies sustained by the practices of organic agriculture. Because this vision depends on vast acreage of healthy agricultural soils, as well as decarbonization of our energy economy, I'm testifying in support of the amended version of LD 856. We enthusiastically support efforts to protect Maine's farmland and keep it in agricultural production, while finding ways to reduce energy consumption and convert our fossil fuel-based energy system to renewables. Our precious farmland and finite farmland is threatened by commercial and residential developments, dramatically changing weather patterns, and synthetic chemical contamination, particularly PFAS. So we must do everything we can to minimize impact from other industrial developments, including solar farms. We know that MAFCA farmers already are feeling the pressure of hayfields being sacrificed to solar arrays. We want to ensure responsible assessment of how solar arrays can be added to farm and open space tax programs so that Maine's prime agricultural lands are protected for farming generations to come. We're really grateful to the Society Solar Group for their efforts to develop consensus recommendations, and we believe that the amended version of LD 856 lays out a plan to minimize adverse impacts to valuable agricultural lands. We appreciate the calls for reserving at least 20 megawatts of capacity for dual use agrivoltaics in the pilot program. And we feel that dual use projects are also providing diversified income streams for livestock farmers who need grazing land, and also reducing the use of fossil fuels for managing the growth around the arrays. We're happy about engaging the stakeholders in the work sessions for the distributed generation stakeholder group. We really appreciate the intent to include voices of farmers and farming organizations that are working to build a vibrant and healthy agriculture future for Maine. And we also hope there will be an emphasis on prioritizing properties that are degraded or severely contaminated beyond the point of remediation, such as what's happening with some of the PFAS contaminated land. Maybe those would be prioritized as potential solar farms. And we're enthusiastic about the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry having the resources it needs to guide responsible solar power development in the state. And we're enthusiastic about the database that would be generated to help guide smart growth and inform smart growth of solar arrays over time. So generally, we're very supportive of this, and we hope you will support LD 856. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next is Jack Shapiro, followed by Ron Wood.
Great. Good afternoon, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, members of the ACF committee. My name is Jack Shapiro. I'm the Climate and Clean Energy Director at the Natural Resources Council of Maine, and I'm here to testify in support of LD 856. We appreciate the work of the Agricultural Solar Working Group, the DACF, the bill sponsor, and the committee for their recommendations and bringing forward this bill. Others have discussed the connection between renewable energy development that we so very much need, and the need to be mindful of how these projects are cited. So I'll just move quickly to a few areas of the bill that we support. First, creating a public database of energy projects will fill a significant data gap that we have, and will really allow us to identify and respond to trends and learn from our experience as we build out the renewable energy we need to meet our statutory clean energy and climate goals. We also believe the dual use pilot project is a great first step towards understanding how we can maximize the productive use of land by co-locating energy and agricultural production. While renewable energy technologies like solar are well understood, there's much to learn about how to make projects that combine agriculture and horticulture with energy generation, both economical and productive. And lastly, we support the provision directing the governor's energy office to include specific siting work sessions with specific participation in the ongoing work of the DG stakeholder group. We believe these conversations can be really valuable in providing thoughtful consideration of which policy mechanisms are the most appropriate to encourage well-sited renewable energy projects. We do suggest that the committee work to align the timelines included in this bill with the timelines laid out in the DG stakeholder group's interim report. For example, in the bill, they require the siting meetings to be convened by September, and the working group's report indicate that those focused work sessions will provide recommendations by mid-2022, and we'd want to make sure that these conversations are incorporated in that process. But in the interest of keeping things brief, I'll end there. Thanks for the opportunity to testify, and happy to take any questions that you might have.
Are there any questions? All right, seeing none, thank you again for your testimony. And finally is Rob Wood. I think I said Ron Wood, so I apologize. So Rob Wood.
Thanks, Senator Dill. It's okay. I get that all the time. Good to see you and Representative O'Neill, Representative Berry, members of the ACF committee. I'm Rob Wood. I'm the Director of Government Relations and Climate Policy for the Nature Conservancy in Maine. I'm here to testify in support of LD 856. Our top priorities at the Nature Conservancy, both in Maine and across the world, are conserving lands and waters and tackling climate change. And we feel that these goals are tightly intertwined. Conserving natural places helps draw down carbon from the atmosphere and provide space for wildlife to move and adapt as temperatures warm, while the rapid deployment of clean, renewable energy mitigates the cause of climate change that is impacting natural and human communities alike. There is an inherently virtuous cycle between clean energy deployment and natural resource conservation. At the same time, clean energy projects require substantial space to build and can bump into important natural resources. Maintaining the virtuous relationship between clean energy and natural resources requires being intentional about where new projects are located. TNC believes that with the right policy frameworks in place, Maine and the region can build the clean energy we need in a way that's compatible with our natural and working lands. LD 856 represents a very important step toward achieving this goal. So we really appreciate the work of Representative Berry, the GEO, DACF, DEP, and the organizations that have spoken before me today in crafting this very thoughtful legislation that, as you've heard, builds on the work of the Agricultural Solar Stakeholder Group and is consistent with Maine's Climate Action Plan, which does recommend that the state should develop policies to ensure renewable energy project siting is streamlined and transparent while seeking to minimize impacts on natural and working lands. We especially appreciate the language in the bill around the land use subgroup of the distributed generation stakeholder group, while recognizing that that stakeholder group may be moving in that direction toward forming a land use subgroup in any case. But we do appreciate the specific language in this bill and feel that bringing additional agricultural and natural resource stakeholders into the subgroup work sessions will add valuable insight to the discussion. And we feel that the bill provides important direction that can help focus the work group discussions on ways to support clean energy projects that avoid, minimize, and or compensate for agricultural and natural resource impacts. And we also feel that of particular importance is the specific language requiring recommendations for preferencing well-sited projects in clean energy procurement or tariff programs, as these are the most likely policy levers for ensuring low-impact clean energy projects are developed in the future. Lastly, we'd just like to flag that the language allowing DEP to set a timeline for a site law permit by rule is also a very important provision, as that will allow for implementation of a robust permit by rule in the future, which we also believe is a very important lever for supporting well-sited low impact projects. So we support the bill in full, echo a lot of the previous testimony that you've heard, and just thank the sponsor again and appreciate the committee's time today.
Thank you. Questions from anyone? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. And Cheryl, that's all I have on my list. Do you have anyone else?
I do not.
All right, then I will close the hearing on LD 856, and we'll move on to the next one, LD 1983. Resolved to authorize the Bureau of Parks and Lands to enter into a lease with Christian Camps and Conferences for a parcel of land located in Somerset County. And to present that is Senator Brad Farron. If you would let him in, if he's not in here yet. And there he is, coming in slowly. Good afternoon, Senator Farron. Thanks for your patience.
Well, thank you. We just finished up 4 confirmation hearings in transportation, so the timing was almost seamless.
Oh, good.
Yes, yes, yes. Even though I've been listening on both of them, we know how that multitasking goes these days. Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and honorable members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. I'm Senator Brad Farron. I'm here today to introduce LD 1883. It's a resolve to authorize the Bureau of Parks and Lands to enter into a lease with Christian Camps and Conferences for a parcel of land located in Somerset County. Christian Camps and Conferences Incorporated operates in Moose River Outpost, which is a youth camp located in my district. In 2016, they entered into a lease agreement with the Bureau of Parks and Lands for a small parcel of land that allows the camp to access their property from Route 201, as well as run phone lines to the camp. The agreement entered into in 2016 stipulates that the lease must be renewed every 5 years. In attempting to renew the lease, the Bureau of Parks and Lands suggested that Christian Camps and Conferences should seek legislative approval. Given the current scrutiny surrounding lease lands in the state of Maine, both BPL and the governor's office felt legislative approval was the proper avenue for addressing this land lease issue. The language contained in LD 1883 simply allows the BPL to lease this parcel of land to the camp under the same terms as the original agreement. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, but a representative from the camp will be testifying after me and can answer the more detailed questions you may have regarding the specific lease. I thank you for your time today and ask that you support LD 1983 so that the Moose River Outpost can continue to operate and bring hundreds of kids to Somerset County each year for a unique outdoor experience. And just a couple side comments. One is I know we all appreciate Senator Black creating this extra work for us. I heard the previous testimony on the first bill, and all I hope is, I know there's some, believe it or not, some politics that's behind all of these things and combining bills and everything else, is that this Christian camp is strictly looking to get their lease extended so they can plan accordingly to bring these kids to Somerset County. So I hope we don't tie them up in that. So with that, Mr. Chair, I am done.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Senator Farron?
Let me off easy. Thank you.
They did. Thank you for your testimony and introducing the bill. Next, we have Seth Coates. Welcome. Oops, I'm sorry. Before I do that, I'm going to go to Andy Cutco. That's what I usually do. I go to the department next. So, Director Cutco.
Yes, good afternoon, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the committee. I'm Andy Cutco, and I'm the Director of the Bureau of Parks and Lands. I'm testifying today neither for nor against LD 1983, which authorizes the Bureau to lease to Christian Camps and Conferences a linear stretch of public reserve lands in Dennistown Plantation, just north of Jackman, for an existing underground telephone cable. In 1991, the Bureau of Parks and Lands issued a 25-year lease to install a 905-foot underground cable on public lands in Dennistown Township. In 2016, pursuant to Title 12 MRS 1852, subsection 4, the Bureau issued a new 25-year lease to Christian Camps for this cable. The statute was amended by question 1 in the November 2021 ballot, such that, and this is the same language that Deputy Director Patterson read earlier today, and I quote, any such and railroad tracks under this subsection may not be granted without first obtaining the vote of 2/3 of all members elected to each house of the legislature. As a result of this change, the Bureau advised the Christian camps to seek 2/3 legislative approval for this lease. If the lease is approved by the legislature and signed by the governor, the Bureau intends to issue the lease. I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any questions for Director Cutco? Representative Schofield.
Thank you, Senator Dill. Good afternoon, Director Cutco. I'm just curious. I have a couple of questions. I have a question and then a request. It seems to me that a 5-year lease is rather short term. Is there a reason why it's limited to 5 rather than say 20 or something of that? And then I have a request afterwards.
I'm sorry, I may have misspoken. It's a 25-year lease. It was issued in 2016, and the reason we're revisiting it today is because question 1 was retroactive to 2014. And so because this lease was issued in 2016, it's caught by that retroactive clause. And so it is a 25-year lease, but we're revisiting it because of the 2016 date and question 1, the retroactive element of that.
Okay, gotcha. You may not have stated incorrectly. I thought both you and Senator Farron said 5 years, but I'm hearing challenged, so I may have missed the 20 before the 5. But I also have a request, Director Cutco. I mentioned it to Deputy Director Patterson that I think it would be helpful for me as well as other members of the committee if for the work session, we could have a list or an inventory, if you will, of land leases that the BPL has engaged in. Things to include in that would be the name of the lease number or identifier, however you do it, the location of these leases, the date of the original lease and the date of any renewals, if any, and a brief description of the purpose of the lease, whether it's an access road right of way or a power line right of way or cell tower or whatever, just a brief sentence or whatever describing that. Is that something you think you could possibly develop for us as a committee?
Yes, we could do that, Representative Schofield. I think I'd want to clarify one question. The overwhelming majority of our leases, we have hundreds of leases that are camp lot leases, many, if not most of which we acquired, came along with the land when we acquired it. I wouldn't put a percentage on it, but it's certainly the overwhelming majority of our leases are camp lot leases. We could include those if you like, or we could exclude those if the interest is specifically those that are, for commercial purposes, such as what we're hearing today.
I think that's what I'm getting at. Things that are for commercial. I think we understand that there are a lot of leases that go with the property that was acquired when the Bureau obtained it, camps and cottages, that sort of thing. And I think what I'm interested in is the ones that we just mentioned. Thank you.
Certainly.
Are there other questions for Director Cutco? All right, seeing none. Thank you for your testimony. Now I will go to Seth Coates.
Thank you. And thanks for the time to speak today. Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and distinguished members of the Joint Standing Committee on Agriculture, Conservation, Forestry. My name is Seth Coates, and I'm the Director of Maine Operations, so everything that we do in the state of Maine, for Christian Camps and Conferences Incorporated. Christian Camps, pursuant of a management services agreement with our affiliate, also called Christian Camps and Conferences of Maine, does business as Moose River Outpost, operating a youth camp on a landlocked portion of land owned by Christian Camps of Maine that surrounds Heald Pond. And that is surrounded by a timberland property owned by Christian Camps and Conferences Incorporated. I realize that's wordy and has mostly to do with our tax status. So I'm just going to pursue on through this and mostly just refer to Moose River Outpost, which is our youth camp. We've been there in that place since 1999. And the property has been in use as far back as 1888 when Heald Pond Camps, a sporting camp, was there on Heald Pond. So this is not new use of the land. There's a small strip of land that separates our property from 201. And this is the 900 or so feet that we just heard about. And this gives us our driveway, and then there's a buried phone line there, as you heard the director talk about a moment ago. And those two things have been there for a very, very long time as well. Today, we are asking the Maine legislature to renew the lease that we've had established with the Bureau of Parks and Land, and the last renewal in 2016 and on into the future. This lease allows us to maintain access to our property as well as maintain our phone lines that are buried there. The existing driveway gives Christian Camps of Maine the ability to function as a youth camp, and the existing phone lines ensure that we have the safety of our campers as well as communication with the parents of those kids. This lease is for an existing driveway access that we would continue to use and maintain. We're not proposing a new use for that. We're not proposing increasing in size. And we're not even proposing new phone lines. We just would like to maintain what we have. This short section of land that Bureau of Parks and Land owns functionally is just a woods lot. There's no waterways there. There's no other recreational sites. There's no campsites. It's just a bunch of trees that we pass through. And then also ITS 89, if you've snowmobiled up in that area, passes through our property and then through this one little section of woods as well. Other than that, all that goes through there is some moose and bears and, you know, what the things that you find north of Jackman. This coming summer, we plan to host about 200 11 to 17-year-old kids, and is about 700 guests from different churches and schools around New England. And we will need both our driveway and our phone lines to make that happen. So I would ask you to support LD 1983 and renew the lease that we've had for quite some time. I'd be happy to take any questions if there are any.
Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Next on the list is neither for nor against, and that is Tom Saviello.
Thank you, Senator Dill, and thank you, Senator Dill and Representative O'Neill and members of the committee. I still am Tom Saviello, a citizen of Wilton. I'm neither for nor against, and I think Mr. Cutco well stated it, because I actually don't think this bill is necessary. Why? Because the original lease was signed in 1991 prior to the 1993 constitutional amendment requiring a 2/3 approval for substantial alteration of the public lands. You might be interested in some of the conditions in the lease. It says no buildings, either permanent or temporary, may be constructed or placed on the described premises. The lease does contain a renewal date of July 2016. And yes, that's after the September 16th date of 2014 that was in the referendum and is now in law. That's why the LD is asking for a renewal of the lease. I would agree it's not clear the new lease is a renewal, but a legislative necessary would be approval would be good, but not necessarily a requirement. I again do applaud BPL for moving this forward. They now obviously understand what's required and sensitive to the revised law. One suggestion I do make that I think Senator Farron has a legitimate concern that this could get hung up in some different kinds of discussions if we took Senator Bennett's suggestion, but I think there is an alternative. You actually still have LD 471 in your hands that could actually address, I think, what Senator Bennett's trying to do. And that's something that can be discussed offline in relation to this hearing. Again, I'm neither for nor against because I don't think it's this bill is necessary, but at the end of the day, if it clarifies something, then it should be passed. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Saviello? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony. Cheryl, that's all I have on my list for this bill. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, then I will close the hearing on LD 1983. And we'll move on to LD 1984, resolve authorizing the director of the Bureau of Parks and Lands to renew a lease of certain land in Aroostook State Park to the Federal Aviation Administration. And that is Representative McCrae's bill.
They have a question.
Oh, sorry, Representative Schofield, I didn't see your hand.
Senator Dill, I'm wondering if it's procedurally possible to go to work session on LD 1983.
Hold it. Representative McCrae's got to say something. You got to unmute first.
I'm under a really tight time constraint, but if it's a brief thing, that's fine. But I've got about 15, 20 minutes before I have to leave. So I want to be as accommodating as I can.
That is fine. If you want to make a motion to suspend the rules and go into work session on LD 1983, we can do that. Since I have closed the session, and we'd have to close the session, so, and we did the work. Go ahead.
Senator Dill, I would move that we go into work session on LD 1983.
Okay, so suspend the rules and go into work session on LD 1983. Representative Hall.
I will second that motion.
It's been moved and seconded. All right, Karen, do you want to say anything? I mean, we just had it, but.
Nope.
Nope. Okay. And any discussion? Representative Hall.
Yes, I would move up to pass.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded on LD 1983 as ought to pass. Any further discussion? Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple questions. I heard Senator Bennett mention something today about a preamble. I haven't even had the chance to look at this bill. Does it have the preamble? Do we want it to contain that preamble? And also my second question is if maybe Senator Saviello or somebody could answer what was the request about combining two bills? I just want to understand how all this fits together.
The two bills that were suggested, and the reason why we didn't go into work session basically on LD 1981, first off, Representative Schofield had asked for a lot of information for the work session in 1981. And then Representative Bennett said for ease, we could combine these two bills, even though if you remember back on the Baxter Park / Aroostook, we asked the department to not combine bills because we wanted to keep them separate to vote on. But the rationale was if we combine these, and that would give us LD 1983 as a vehicle to move forward with the corridor information. And as pointed out, Senator Black's bill is still there. We haven't voted on that. So anything that we wanted to do, his is kind of a broad bill around the same area. We could actually do that same issue with 471. So that's kind of where we are with all of this. And now that there's
That was clear as mud, but okay.
Well, I don't know if someone wants to make it clearer, but
Maybe like I just heard I'm just trying to accommodate all the things that got raised. One was about a preamble. I'm trying to look up the bill.
The preamble I'm not sure of, but combining the bills, I mean, it was just a suggestion to combine bills and have a vehicle open to us to do something else.
Oh, it looks like the preamble's in there. I think Karen can clarify whether it's the same. I just need time to pull it up and look at what we were voting on. Yeah.
Yep, the 2/3 preamble is there.
All right. And Jim, would you mind if I just bring up Honorable Tom Saviello for a question?
Okay.
Oh, thanks, Dill. No, I think you've got it right, Jim. Right, Senator Dill. I think it's exactly what I think Senator Bennett's trying to do. And I do believe that 471 may provide an opportunity to answer the concerns that he has without clouding up the water on this bill and ultimately the first bill that we heard this morning or this afternoon.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Representative Hall.
Yes, thank you, Senator Dill. I just want to make the point that Senator Farren did mention that he would like to keep this bill separate because we don't want it to get dragged down and not pass because of this is just about the camp up in northern Somerset County. So personally, that's why I'm in favor of doing it this way.
Yep, I don't have a problem with it either. Senator Black.
Thank you, Senator Dill. And that I stated that earlier on my bill this afternoon that I didn't want to convolute them, combine them, and then we moved so quickly that I had hoped that we would go to work session on that bill because that's a simple bill too. So maybe we can revisit that before we get done today. But thank you.
Yes, the afternoon's not over, so if we want to do that, we can. All right, so right now, is there any further discussion on LD 1983? We have a motion on the floor as ought to pass. Seeing no further discussion, Cheryl, would you call the roll?
Yes, LD 1883 ought to pass. Senator James Dill.
Yes.
Senator James Dill, yes. Senator Russell Black.
Yes.
Senator Russell Black, yes. Senator Chloe Maxman.
Yes.
Senator Chloe Maxman, yes. Representative Maggie O'Neill.
Yes.
Representative Maggie O'Neill, yes. Representative Randall Hall.
Yes.
Representative Randall Hall, yes. Representative Thomas Schofield.
Yes.
Representative Thomas Schofield, yes. Representative Lori Osher.
Yes.
Representative Lori Osher, yes. Representative Joseph Underwood, absent. Representative Scott Landry.
Yes.
Representative Scott Landry, yes. Representative Bill Pluker, absent. Representative Jeffrey Gifford, absent. Representative David McCray.
Yes.
Representative David McCray, yes. Representative Susan Bernard.
Yes.
Representative Susan Bernard, yes. 10 yes, 3 absent.
On LD 1983, resolved to authorize the Bureau of Parks and Lands to enter into a lease with Christian camps and conferences for a parcel of land located in Somerset County. Ought to pass, prevails 10-03. Representative, oops, I see Senator Farren has his hand up.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to the chairs and the members of the committee. You're like, today, my favorite committee, and I appreciate you moving this along in front of Senator Black's bill. It shows where your true hearts are. So thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, then we'll close the work session on LD 1983. We'll open up the public hearing on LD 1984. Resolve authorizing the director of the Bureau of Parks and Lands to renew a lease of certain land in Aristic State Park for the Federal Aviation. Go ahead, Representative McCray.
Thank you, Senator Dill. Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, fellow members of the ACF committee. I am presenting LD 1984.
Representative McCray, we can't hear you for some reason. I mean, you're kind of fading in and out.
Okay, I'll start right.
Yep, now we can hear you.
Okay, there we go. Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and fellow members of the ACF committee. This is a bill that I've been asked to submit on behalf of the department. It has to do with land very near where I live in the park under the control, I guess, of PTL.
Representative McCray, sorry to interrupt you. I know you're in a hurry, but every time you turn your head, we can't hear you.
I'll put one over there. Okay, now I can. I'll put this here.
Okay. Yes.
Okay, there we go. Anyway, this has to do with land in Aroostook State Park that there is a lease by the Federal Aviation Administration. This is purely renewal of a lease that's been there for some time. I realize that every bill we've talked about today will have some bearing on the new law from last November. So this is no different. I will ask that the department present the rationale behind it, as I don't even really know all of their details. Thank you.
Okay. Representative Bernard.
Thank you very much, Senator Dill. I'm not sure if I should be asking you, Representative McCray, because I know you're in a hurry, but also I'm not sure if I should be asking the department. Has the FAA actually requested that the ILS outer marker and compass locator still have a space out there? Because I understand that those two pieces have been decommissioned for several years now, and they're just no longer needed. So I just wondered who is requesting?
Okay, Representative Bernard, I will have to tell you that you know more about this than I do. So you'll have to ask the department.
Okay, thank you very much.
And that wasn't because I'm in a hurry.
Any other questions for Representative McCray? All right, seeing none, then I will turn to Director Cutco.
Thank you, folks.
Yes, thanks again, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the committee. I'm still Andy Cutco, and I'm the Director of the Maine Bureau of Parks and Lands. I'm speaking on behalf of the department today in favor of LD 1984, which is a resolve authorizing the Director of the Bureau of Parks and Lands to renew a lease of certain land in Aroostook State Park to the Federal Aviation Administration. And we thank Representative McCray for sponsoring the bill. The bill would authorize the director to issue a lease to the U.S. Department of Transportation, Federal Aviation Administration at Aroostook State Park in Presque Isle, Maine. The Bureau first issued a lease to the U.S. Department of Transportation, FAA, in 2002 for an area of 100 feet by 100 feet for an outer marker and compass locator in Aroostook State Park. This lease was authorized under Resolve in the 120th Legislature, Chapter 71, LD 1893. The facilities are critical to the communications and flight management system servicing the Presque Isle International Airport. The existing lease will terminate on September 30th, 2022, and the U.S. Department of Transportation, FAA, has requested a new lease. Under 12 MRS Section 1814, the Director of the Bureau may lease lands to the federal government with the approval of the legislature. If passed by the legislature and signed by the governor, the Bureau would intend to issue the lease. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Yes, Representative Bernard.
Okay, same question, actually. I guess I'm just a little bit confused, and I understand if they're asking for it, there must be a reason, but did they give you a reason for still wanting this parcel of land? Not that it's a big deal, it's not a lot of land, but I know that the ILS outer marker and the compass locator have been decommissioned for a number of years. They don't need it because they have GPS now and they have DME, which is the distance measuring equipment. And so I'm just curious if they explained to you why the need.
I'll need to consult with my staff on that, Representative Bernard. I am not familiar with the details of the status of decommissioning, but my assumption is that if they've requested the lease, they clearly want to retain the ability to use that platform.
Okay, yeah, I'd be curious to know because I guess it's been out of commission for some time.
Mm-hmm.
Representative Schofield. You're muted, sir.
Thank you, Senator Dill. Thank you, Director Cutco. I think that the Representative Bernard has a valid point. If this is just a, oh, I don't know, it's time to do it again thing, maybe the FAA can explain why. And also my request for the list or the inventory of leases still stands, even though we went directly into work session on the last bill. I think it would be helpful relative to all of this if this committee could receive an inventory. So I didn't want to dismiss that based on our last vote. So thank you both.
Are there other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you for your testimony. And last on this bill is Dr. Saviello.
Thank you, Senator Dill, Representative O'Neill, and members of the committee. I still am too, Tom Saviello, a citizen of Wilton. And I actually should have been in favor of this lease rather than neither for nor against, because after reading the law and reminding myself, you actually have jurisdiction to do this already. Why I'm saying that because it is not related to the referendum. The referendum only changed Title 12, 1852-4, that does not affect this lease. It is covered under Title 12, 1852-7, which says lease of public reserves to federal government with the consent of the governor and the commissioner, and with the approval of the legislature. The Bureau may lease land to the federal government, the right to use the public reserve lands. So it's already in law that you have to prove this at the legislative level. So I again do applaud BPL for bringing this forward. They understand the requirements and the sensitivity of all of the public lands. It's much appreciated. And other than Representative Bernard's question, which I think is a good one, I would suggest that you could pass this, but I think you need to get an answer to that question first. And thank you very much. I'll answer any questions you might have.
Any questions for Tom Saviello?
Still Tom Saviello.
Director Cutco.
Yes, thank you. I do just want to correct the information. This Dr. Saviello is correct in that this piece of statute does not relate to the piece that applied to CMP. However, it's a different piece than he referenced. It's actually 1814, which relates to state park land. 1852 relates to public reserve land. This is a piece of land at Aroostook State Park. So it's 1814 is the correct statute. But he was correct in that it refers specifically to the federal government in 1814.
Okay, Representative Bernard.
Thank you very much, Senator Dill. Is this appropriate? I'm not sure, to move that we hold this bill until we get the information back.
We don't have to do, you don't have to do anything with it because this is just a public hearing and we'll just wait on the work session.
Right.
Yep.
Thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? If not, I will close the hearing on LD 1984. Now, we still have LD 1981 that we've closed the hearing on. If someone would like to go into work session on that, I'm sure that we can accommodate that. If not, Representative Schofield. What happened to Representative?
Thank you, Senator Bill. I would move that we waive the usual signs and ceremonies and go into work session on, I forgot the bill, on LD, whatever it was.
1981.
1981. Thank you.
Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Landry. Any discussion on that? All in favor on going into a work session? Karen wants to say something okay. All in favor? Yes. All right. No one's opposed. Karen.
The only thing I wanted to bring up is the Bureau did, and someone who testified on behalf of ATC or RCC Atlantic. Anyway, there looks like there needs to be a correction in lines 12 and 13 of the bill. ATC holds a sublease, which is incorrect. That's how the bill is drafted. ATC has a management agreement with RCC Atlantic. So it sounds like if the committee moves forward with this, you'd need to correct that in lines 12 and 13.
So that would be then, if we wanted to move forward, it'd be as amended.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so we're in work session. Any discussion? Anybody want to make a motion? Representative Landry.
I move to pass as amended.
On LD 1981, ought to pass as amended. Representative Schofield.
I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Cheryl, please call the roll. Cheryl, you are muted. I can read lips, you know. I heard what you said.
It was nice. It was nice. Phew. Okay. LD 1981 ought to pass as amended. Senator James Dill.
Yes.
Senator James Dill, yes. Senator Russell Black.
Yes.
Senator Russell Black, yes. Senator Chloe Maxman.
Yes.
Senator Chloe Maxman, yes. Representative Maggie O'Neill.
Yes.
Representative Maggie O'Neill, yes. Representative Randall Hall.
Yes.
Representative Randall Hall, yes. Representative Thomas Schofield.
Yes.
Representative Thomas Schofield, yes. Representative Lori Osher.
Yes.
Representative Lori Osher, yes. Representative Joseph Underwood, absent. Representative Scott Landry.
Yes.
Representative Scott Landry, yes. Representative Bill Pluker, absent. Representative Jeffrey Gifford, absent. Representative David McCray, absent. Representative Susan Bernard.
Yes.
Representative Susan Bernard, yes. That's 9 yes and 4 absent.
On LD 1981, ought to pass as amended, a resolve authorizing the Bureau of Parks and Lands to authorize additional construction installations related to a telecommunications tower in Bald Mountain in the town of Rangeley. It passes 904. Okay, we will close the work session on LD 1981. Karen, anything to come before?
Yes, I sent you the committee amendment to LD 1075, an act to protect public lands. But if you give me a second, I'm going to pull up the Word, excuse me, the Word version, because I sent you the scanned, the PDF. The gray highlight is not that clear. So this is LR 1075. Amendments. Where the heck are you? All right, I'm not finding it. So we're going to go with the PDF. So I'll share my screen, and I apologize for the quality of the so this was Senator Bennett's bill about establishing a process and rule to determine if a proposed activity on land designated or designated land would cause that land to be reduced or substantially altered. So what the amendment does, it's a majority report. In addition to the Department of ACF, Bureau of Parks and Lands, as proposed in the original bill, the Department of Inland Fisheries and Wildlife and the Baxter State Park Authority are directed to adopt rules as well to establish this process, since there are designated lands under the jurisdiction of those two agencies. And then the second piece is this language around in adopting the rules, the agencies shall observe the requirements relating to designated lands in the Constitution of Maine, etc., and ensure proper exercise of the agency's public trust responsibility. So that's the committee amendment. The only thing I sort of wanted to point out about having 3 separate agencies adopt rules, they could conceivably adopt 3 different standards. So there might be an opportunity for challenges. I just wanted to raise that, but
not only that, Karen, but I mean, I realize the legislature can do what they want, and we do kind of have jurisdiction over the Baxter State Park Authority. But it seems to be that they kind of are in a different place in the Bureau of Parks and Lands. So I'm just curious whether what we can tell them and tell them not to do. And with IF&W, the same thing kind of holds. And that's a slightly different because a lot of their lands are also somehow intertwined with the national fish and wildlife. And I'm not sure that we can have the same jurisdiction over them or whatever. So not only could it be challenged, as you say, but there may be other reasons for challenge it if we put those other 2 in there.
yeah, I mean, my legal reviewer, the committee's counsel, I should say, didn't raise that as an issue, but certainly the fact that there could be 3 different standards for evaluating, you know, this process could you know, cause someone to file suit.
So if they file suit, when you say they file suit, do you mean like one of the other entities?
I mean, I just mean they could challenge, the fact that there are different processes for.
Yeah,
that.
because I guess what I'm trying to drill down to is, are we better off by leaving those other two out if we're really, really concerned with the Bureau of Public Lands and getting those done? Rather than including the other two, does it jeopardize the whole bill, I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, I think, that was something that was discussed at the public hearing, is to carve out Department of IFNW or and Baxter State Park, or I suppose, and I don't know how the agencies would feel about this, is that they could jointly adopt rules, but that's for the committee to decide.
Okay, Representative O'Neill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So Karen, can you just articulate once more what it is what it is that you wanted to say? Because I think you and Mr. Chair said something different, so I'm just trying to follow.
Sure. So the committee amendment as drafted, where each agency, Bureau of Parks and Lands under Department of ACF, Department of IFNW, and Baxter State Park Authority have been directed to each adopt rules to establish this process. So conceivably, you could have three different processes, or three different standards for coming to that determination. So not knowing what the future holds, but it seems like this, if one agency has a different standard than another, that could kind of open state agencies up to challenges on why that is a different standard for one agency versus another. It may or may not happen. It just is a possibility.
Okay. I think so. Did council raise that, or was
Yes.
that okay? I think it's like, if we look at our steps, it's like a lot of steps ahead, and I think that's something for the departments to consider as they draft things. But all of those lands were contemplated and protected by the Constitution, so I think it's important that we make a clear public process. And the good thing about having legislative review is that we'll have a chance to have this conversation, a year from now. So.
Right, because there are major substantive rules.
Yeah, because that was part of our goal, was making sure we could review it, and that way stakeholders will be able to talk about it at the time. And yeah, I'm satisfied with that process, knowing that it will come back to the legislature and there'll be a public process around it. But.
Representative Schofield.
I was going to say, I agree with you, Senator Dill, that it should probably come out, but I'm not sure. I think we need to be careful, and I think it makes sense. It would be cleaner, I think, if it came out.
Representative O'Neill.
So folks are in disagreement. Is there a way we can hold this and have a conversation about, like, hold it, not release it, and talk a little bit more about it? Because I just feel like I need more information, and it's the first time I've heard any objection to it since we decided we were on the same page. Just, I'm taken by surprise, so I just would need a little bit of time to process, and maybe we can figure out how to make it work.
What's the status of the bill right now? Is it coming back to us for public hearing and work session, or we done all that? No. This is language review. No, that's what I'm asking. We've done so many things with these things. So
I know I'm chuckling because everything seems like a committee bill lately. No,
right.
This is just a carryover, and you had the public hearing in the first regular, and you just had the work session. So this is just language review, but yeah, it's not reported out. So if after folks have discussions, if you want to reconsider it and take another vote, that's always an option.
I would agree with Representative O'Neill. Let's hold it for another, at least maybe till next week. We can think about it. And it's nothing against Maggie, what you, Representative Rennie, what you said. I think we were kind of in agreement, but I think it was also one of those things that was, I felt was just kind of thrown in there, and it's kind of like, well, yeah, I guess. But I've just been hearing things, you know, because you got to remember, I chair the IF&W committee, so their concern is over a lot of their lands are also how somehow their federal money coming into it and that type of thing. So they had a different take on it is all. So go ahead, Representative O'Neill. Did you have your hand up with something else? Or?
Yeah, that's good insight for me. And yeah, I'd be happy to talk more about it. And
yeah, I think we
folks are thinking.
All right, sounds good. Senator Black.
Thank you. You know, I would have to agree with you, Senator Dill. I've been hearing, you know, being on IFW, I hadn't thought it when we put the IFW in there. I thought that was, you know, I was thinking LMF land, you know, money and stuff, but there is a lot of matching federal dollars there. And so that brought up a concern from IFW. And then I had several people in association with the Back State Park said, well, we are under the jurisdiction of you know, this, you know, the state in that area. So I don't know. I think it would be good to get those answers. I was in favor of putting all three of them in, but, you know, I'm hearing some, you know, questions about it. So I think it would be nice to be able to get them clarified before we, you know, send it out of committee.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. Any other questions, comments on that? All right, Karen, anything else?
No, not today.
Cheryl, anything else?
Are we doing a cheers and leads after this?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Representative Schofield.
Yes, I just wanted to make a point on LD 1984, the Aroostook State Park FCC lease agreement. I think Director Cutco may want to check to be sure that it's Title 12, Section 1814 relates to conveying land, not leasing it, in my opinion. So he just, for the work session, I think that needs to be looked at. Just so we get it right.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments before we adjourn? Can I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Representative Landry, seconded by Representative Bernard. All in favor, none opposed. Thank you all. Chairs and leads, stay on and please.